Astrid Travelers, and welcome to another episode of Tales of Teyvat, a Genshin lore podcast. Last week, we got lost in the sauce as we discussed the love story between the first angel and the youth that is actually probably in his 20s, when we talked about the finale of the Deep Galleries artifact set. This week, we are returning to Nodcry to finish off our story as we discuss Nodcry and their new moon.
Are you feeling trapped, held hostage by the incessant flow of time? Or maybe a mad scientist? Well, come and be free at our website, talesofteyvat.com, where each episode has its own page with curated visuals brought to you by Dr. Tiff.
I got my PhD in Genshin. While you're there, check out our past seasons and episodes. Each one includes some visuals and some special items and some fun stuff.
Finally, feel free to email us at talesofteyvatpod@gmail.com to let Albedo know what you thought of this week's episode. He's got a little bit more free time now, so he's ready to really trek through our mail. Especially because it's been piling up, because we don't always answer mail during these big Archon Quest episodes. So let him know what you think of this episode, good or bad. Just don't send him any anthrax, and let him know what topics you'd like to see in the future on the pod. Before we jump into Acts 7 and 8 of the Archon Quest, which were a doozy, I don't even know where one started and ended. It just felt like when you have slime and it like melts together. I was like, whoa. I did. I had no work the next day. We had a lot of terrible snow here when I was playing this, and I stayed up till like 3:30 in the morning, and I didn't even know it was that late. And I was like, "What?" So maybe I was the slime melting together.
You were the slime.
Yeah, you were very slimy.
I'm gross. But you know who's grosser? The fucking doctor that I will not ever acknowledge the pasta blood and say his name right. Now, before we jump back into Nodcry and started Act 7, I just wanted to bring up one quick thing. This part of the Archon Quest brings up a lot of lore from the Narcissus Kreutz Ordo and also the Fontaine Research Institute, both of which we've done episodes on. So we have episode 65, which is our Narcissus Kreutz saga. We follow the stories of Lyris, Basil Elton, Elaine, which is like Elton John, Marianne, Jacob, Renee, and we talk all about Seymour, the robotic dog, what happens to those people, the chalupa of Fontaine. So if you were confused at all by some of the stuff that Sandrone was talking about, that might help you. And we also did an episode on the Fontaine Research Institute of Kinetic Energy, which Elaine was a part of as well. And we do hear a little bit about some post-Archon Quest things that are going to happen at the Research Institute. So that is episode 117. I will say, like, for travelers who haven't done these two quests, like, were you lost? Because they kind of threw it out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I wonder too, was there a confusion back in the beginning when we first met Sandrone, when she starts just randomly talking about the Lord Artificer?
Yeah, we're like, who the fuck is... Even I was like, who the fuck's that? Elaine.
Yeah, I guess at least at that point, if you didn't know who Elaine was, you just didn't get the big reveal. Like, it wasn't an exciting thing. It was just like, oh, some dude.
You weren't slamming your fist on the desk like I was. Like, yes!
I was just like, oh my God, please. Where was Caterpillar in all of this?
Oh my God, Caterpillar's MIA. He's actually going to show up, and he's going to be like, I'm a moon goddess.
The new moon goddesses are Caterpillar and Enju.
Yes.
They just like come strolling up, like holding hands, doing skippings.
And maybe like Aventurine, why not throw that out there? But yeah, I just wanted to recommend those episodes to you guys. They're quick run-throughs of those quests and that backstory. So if you wanted to listen to them before listening to this, it might help bring it all together, especially if you did the Archon Quest and maybe had a few missing pieces. And that being said, we are going to be talking about Acts 7 and 8, the finale of the Nodcry Archon Quest, or at least the finale, we think. Who knows? So if you haven't done those quests and you don't want to have them ruined for you, we're going to be putting all the pieces together today. So it definitely, like, 10 out of 10 would not recommend listening to this. But anyway, we in Act 7 are returning to the Curatorium. Now, where the fuck did Act 6 leave off?
Act 6 left off with Columbina opening up a moon gate and going through.
Yeah, she yeeted herself into the moon's reflection.
And then we were thrown into the ocean like we didn't matter.
Yes, I forgot I emotionally blocked this out.
Yeah.
Because of Dottore.
Yeah, anything with him, I'm just like, I don't remember. Fuck that guy. Except for when he was involved with Tainari and Kale. But that's besides the point. So we left off, we were in a very depresso espresso room, and this kind of brings us back. And we're returning to the curatorium where all of our depressed friends are back. And there was also a very interesting pan of the cat hunting a lizard.
Yeah.
It felt almost like it was going to be symbolism for something, but I wasn't sure what. I was like, all right, thanks, I guess.
I was like, oh, Asher was hungry.
Oh, God. So as we walk back into the curatorium to meet up with our friends, all of our spy friends are like, someone's here. Someone followed you. And we find out that we were followed by Gediminus. Are we thinking that's right? Gediminus?
Sure.
Sure. We're going to call him Jed.
Jed, yeah.
So Jed is actually someone who works for Arlecchino, and he's reporting in to let us know that no one has seen Dottore since he made a fool of us and himself, and that he actually has a private lab somewhere in Nodcry. And Sandrone and Arlecchino are actually already on their way there. We can meet them there, but just know they're ahead of us, and it's the Special Territory Research Institute. He's like the nicest guy too. Like he had great diplomacy. He was just like, while you are working with Arlecchino, you are also my peers. Like, let me know, let any of us know if you need anything. And I was like, oh my God.
So
Thank
polite.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Fatui, they're warming up to me. Not Dottore, but the others.
Yeah, but you kind of get that feeling like, okay, this is just the side that they're on. And they're actually like normal people. They're not these like evil scientists all like the doctor.
Yeah, and it kind of gives you like I'm just the military guy.
Yeah, like I'm doing my job.
Also, though, it gives remnants of Fontaine, and I'm like, is it just Arlecchino? Is it just that her people are good?
Oh, yeah.
But who knows? Of course, we have to tag along because we are A, nosy bitches, but B, have a grudge to hold. So we decided that we're going to go to this small research institute, which is up in the newest region of Nodcry that released. Aino is not coming with us because she's a literal child.
The first time that they like had some restraint. Let's not put the child in immediate danger.
Yeah, they haven't let us experiment on her. Now they're not letting us take her with us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud of Nodcry's adults. Especially if we're going to Dottore. That's all we need is to have a kid with us. Again.
And Llama is like, Varka, you should stay behind too.
Yeah.
Because you're also a child.
That's totally what it read like, though, right? Like she was just like, because Anefa was already like staying too to watch over Aino, so it's like she didn't need a babysitter, but she was just like, yeah, let's keep Varka here.
He's gonna get in our way.
Her ruse with him is, well, you're gonna protect Nasha Town, and he's like, hell yeah, I am. In the name of the Knights, Barbados, and wine. And Nefer also leaves Yehuda in charge of the curatorium and says, if you need anything, Varka, Yehuda is here for you. And before we leave, Aino actually gives us her lucky ducky to help keep us safe, which was very cute.
It was cute.
Yeah. And then Traveler also recommends that Paimon stay behind. And she was basically like, okay, which felt weird.
Paimon's over it. Paimon's like, I don't want to fight this guy. He's
She's
terrifying.
like, vacation day.
Yeah. I feel like after Natlan, she's like, all right, maybe I need to step back a little bit here.
Yeah.
Like, this is rough.
It's such a growth for her, because if you remember in Sumeru when we disappeared during the festival, like the Subaru's festival, and she was like, you were gone for however amount of time, don't ever do that to me again, and she was like hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm like proud of Paimon for being like, all right, bye boo, you got this, I like these people. So we head out, and there's a lot of crazy destruction going on as we walk up to this lab. There are a lot of dead Fatui grunts on the ground, or maybe they're not dead, maybe they're just knocked out. And we get inside and there's like these weird like red energy beams. There's explosions. There's rift towns. We find the hunt. There are Vishops and other monsters fighting the Fatui. And at one point when there's a Vishop fighting the Fatui, we literally steal his key. We're like, sorry, dude.
Yeah.
And at one point too, I felt like I was in like an abandoned like asylum because there were like empty hospital beds like just strewed around. It was very creepy. Exactly what you would expect.
Mhm.
As we are running through the hallways at one point, we run into a grunt who is like, "Oh, you guys are here? Well, those other two harbingers are already here and they're making a mess." And Traveler Nefer convinced him to talk with us. And he basically informs us that the doctor is building something crazy, says that the doctor came back much sooner than any of them expected. And he had all these moon morrows with him. He also says that he knows the damselet, that he's worked like alongside her and knows her. And he's really surprised that Dottore would steal from her as they are both harbingers. But he also is understanding that she has left the Fatui. This guy was also like a little espresso depresso because he apparently looked up to Capitano, RIP.
Yeah.
And he seems to be under the assumption that if you leave the Fatui, you're going to die. And that's what I think he thinks happened to Capitano.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not feeling very good about Columbina's fate right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good deduction.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of like fanfic writers put that out into the world too, that like people who work for the Fatui, like it's like the mafia. Once you go, you don't go back. You know?
Unless you're wearing cement shoes.
Yeah, in which case you just go down.
Mhm.
Now, he also gives us a little backstory into when the Fatui first came into Nodcry, and he says that 3 units were originally dispatched, one led by Columbina, one by Dottore, and one by Sandrone. He actually tells us that he first worked for Columbina before he ended up under Dottore, and that she was very quiet and distant, and that Dottore would watch her. Ew. Voyeur. This is I'm like, the voyeur or the voyager? He's a voyeur. And after some point, Columbina started to avoid him at all costs. And when she did leave, her troops either went under Dottore or Sandrone for the most part, but most of them went to Dottore. He said that when he joined Dottore's little unit, that Dottore was very partial to everything but the moons. Like, he was like, I love the moons.
I wish they said it like that.
The whole time, all I could think of was Gru and Despicable Me being like, tonight we steal the moon! And the Fatui Grunt tells us that getting the moons was 100% the doctor's first priority, and that he's definitely trying to create a 3rd moon if he can't get all 3. From there, we don't really learn anything about Sandrone's unit, since this guy never worked under her. Makes sense. But he's like, yeah, I don't trust this guy, and his goals are wild. So we're like, okay, like, why don't you go join the Knave's unit, like, down south? Because the Knave has taken over Sandrone's stuff. And we're like, yeah, just leave. And he's like, okay, bye.
Doesn't this make you question like how out of touch the Saritsa must be if she is giving Dottore like all this power when like none of his colleagues trust him?
Yeah, no one under him trusts him. No one equal to him trusts him.
Yeah. So like why does the Saritsa?
I wonder if it has something to do with like Piero being like the first harbinger. Maybe like she just puts Piero in charge type of thing, and she doesn't do as much with them unless Piero comes to her.
It'll be interesting to finally meet her. I hope she talks about Dottore.
I don't. Finally got rid of that bitch. Spoiler alert. But the grunt disappears, and eventually we do find Dottore, and he's like, yes, Arlecchino and Sandrone are here, and Arlecchino disappeared. I have no idea. She's somewhere. And Sandrone came in here and just like yelled at me and left. Then he basically talks about his conversation with Sandrone, and he asks us if everyone we meet becomes softer because they've talked with us.
And we're like, flips hair, yes.
Like, sorry, we believe in empathy and kindness, you ass. But I think that's interesting because if you think of the harbingers that we've met, you have Arlecchino, Capitano, Sandrone, and Child. And Damselet, but whatever, she's not there. So I was like, is Child softer now that we're gone? He might be. I'm not sure.
Senora is.
Well, Senora's dead.
Yeah,
I even include her on my list.
She's goop in her grave.
I think she's ashes, maybe. No, yeah, she was a pile of dust.
Well, she was in a coffin, so something was in there.
Yeah, what did they put in there? Because we saw her turn to dust in Inazuma. They're all her shoes.
All of her, yes.
Her shoe collection.
And her dress.
Her dress.
Why do I love that idea, though?
And that's actually why Columbina was singing on her casket. She was like, I wanted those shoes. Do you see how painful mine are?
I got water droplets.
Do you know how terrible it is to have wet feet all the time? Not even wet socks.
Yeah, she didn't even have the decency to put on the socks. She's just getting wet feet.
And Dottore is like, by the way, I'm asking you this question, and it's not out of, I don't think it's good. I'm like, all right, you're evil. We get it. We have a flashback then to his conversation with Sandrone, where she's basically like, you're not a god. Stop pretending to be one. It's rude. And he tells her that he is sending his people after her people down at the Experimental Design Bureau. And she's like, you're ridiculous. That's blasphemy. That's not my property. It's the Saritsas. So you're going to go down there and kill the Saritsas property and the Saritsas men? And he's like, you can figure that out on your own if you want.
Yeah, like the fact that he goes, maybe I'm just trying to stall you. It's like, what? Are you giving away your plans?
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, he also mentions that he has a new rule in life, which I'm like, oh, amoral.
It's lovely to see him growing as a person.
Since the last time we met him. Which, like, also this man's been haunting the narrative, right?
Yeah.
So I hate him so much. Anyway, he says that he set this new rule where each person he meets will only get one chance. And this is Sandrone's chance. So she runs off to protect her people. And in his opinion, he's failed her one chance. So after hearing all this, we have our group of Lauma, Nefer, Flins, and the Traveler. Lauma is pissed because he has all these ancient relics. And he says to her, in my view, many in this world do not deserve to be alive, and yet I mercifully permit them to go on living.
He's such an ass.
Therefore, you should just let me have these artifacts, right? Which is gross. We hate him. So we start to fight because what else are we supposed to do? And in the battle, he tells us to shut up. And I was so offended.
He's trying to kill us. And you're like, I'm offended by telling me to shut up.
Yeah, like I should be as vocal as I want in battle. Leave me alone. Right as we're kind of maybe starting to lose hope because he's a tough cookie to kill, Arlecchino shows up and she helps us. And this is kind of the way that she suggests that when she disappeared walking into the facility, that she's been around destroying things. I'm assuming causing the explosions we ran into as we were walking around. She then helps us escape, claiming that he's too powerful now that he has all the moon Maros. Because at this point, we also learned that he has a fake moon that he has created. Well, a fake moon Maro.
Yeah, like an artificial moon marrow.
I think it was made of cheese.
Sounds delicious.
As we are running away with Arlecchino, the Traveler gets locked in an effing box and we disappear. And everyone's like, oh no, but the rest of them run away because duh.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm like, oh shit, we've lost.
We're like, not trapped in a cube again.
Yeah, literally, trauma. How many 100,000 years ago did this fucking happen?
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
So then, as the Traveler, we wake up in Nasha Town, where things are very weird. There's a restaurant owner that we know who suddenly has a family we've never heard about, and kids that recognize us, but we don't recognize them, which makes sense. I don't recognize any kid.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking the same thing.
Just the ones with
I'd
visions.
be like, it could be a kid that I've met before, and I'd still be like, what is that?
What is your name?
Who are you?
I'm your godchild. What?
I'm like, what? Do I owe you like a Christmas gift? So at this point, we're like, okay, this might be a false memory. We're starting to put things together. Things don't make sense. We know Dottore can fuck with us. And then all of a sudden he's there and he's so proud. He's like, you realized it was a false memory. Ooh, you're so smart. And he then changes venues and we see this flower ripple in the water. And all of a sudden I'm no longer the Traveler and I am with Columbina.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is like their transition screen for this quest line.
Yeah.
Ripple flower.
Yeah.
Because I guess they couldn't like do the map thing anymore because we don't know where the moon shadow is. So, because I was like, oh, a different one.
And we really didn't know where the Traveler was at first either.
Yeah.
I think they kept that as a good secret as well. So there's a lot of jumping around, so I'll try to go slow. But now we cut to Columbina, Flower Ripple, and she's like, I'm in the moon's reflection. Huh. Coming to this place killed Rerir and Thelindis, but I'm alive. Though I feel like shit. How do I restore my powers here? Because I need help.
Mhm.
We got no Moonmaros, we got no Traveler, no Arlecchino, no Nicole. No one is helping me here.
She's like, this place sucks. Get me the fuck out of here.
She's like, where is my Kuhenki? So as she looks around, she starts to see these golden areas that seem to react to her powers. It seems familiar to her. And through some trial and error of using her skills, she is able to enter a portal world that looks like Moon Prayer Night. And we come to realize that she is watching Moon Prayer Night exactly how it happened, but from a third party perspective.
Yeah. Sort of like when she was Ghost Columbina, when she was like disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's there, but no one can see her. And she, at first, I think, doesn't realize that she can actually have an impact and like mess with the real world.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when she first gets there, she's just kind of observing.
And it's not until she goes over to her tarot card reading with Barbalov that she realizes that she has some inkling that she could do stuff here, because she pulls the one card out for herself, which was the death card. And if you remember, during Moon Prayer Night, the death card just kind of like jumped out.
Yeah.
So now she's realizing that it was her. But also moving that card took some of her energy and pissed Venti off, apparently, because a strong wind pulls her out of the memory. And then we flower ripple back to the party. So we go back to Nefer, Lauma, Flynn's, and Arlecchino returning to the Curatorium without Traveler, where they have to inform Paimon that she is now an orphan.
Orphan alert.
And then Paimon cries. Therefore, I cried.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this poor little thing. She was like, just all the times that she thought she lost us. And this time it was like legit. It's not like we were just like outside talking to Zhao.
Mm-hmm. She was so cute. And she was like, I know that she's strong. Or whoever, I plays Lumine, but I know that they're strong and they're gonna come back. And I was like,
And before that, like when they're like sort of coddling her, she's like, Paimon isn't a kid. I thought that was funny because it reminded me of our interview with Karina, when Karina like literally said that they approach Paimon as if it's a child.
right.
So Paimon being like, Paimon isn't a kid was just really funny to me.
And it also makes you wonder, like, if the new VA is taking like a new approach with it too. Like,
Yeah.
knowing that Paimon was going to maybe mature a bit. I don't know if that's the right words, but like if they were like, well, Paimon is growing, therefore no child left behind.
Right.
Who knows? So Arlecchino tells us that Dottore has been at this longer than they thought, and the whole trying to get the moons. And he is done creating the false moon with the help of his talkings with the Hyperborean phantoms, because nothing can be normal. And since he isn't being rejected from this world like Columbina is, he's gonna be mad fucking powerful with all of Tavat's primordial powers under his control.
Yes.
Which brings us back to our last episode where we talked about the artifact set, in which case we learned that the primordial powers, which were once under the moon's control, were then broken up amongst our 4 shades of the primordial one.
Yeah.
But it makes you curious of how he is able to have all of Tavat's primordial powers if the shades are still a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So are these like competing primordial powers? Is this maybe what the heavenly principles feared, and that's why they yeeted the moons behind the false sky? There's a lot of questions there.
Mm-hmm. Some of those will be answered in Act 8.
And also it made you question too, like, does Arlecchino know about the shades? Or does Arlecchino only know the history of the moon? I would
Right.
assume that the Harbingers seem to know a lot more than anyone else. So she must know, but who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Or does she just know because of her connection with the Crimson Moon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Because that would, you would imagine you'd get a little curious about that.
Yeah.
Especially with her time with Piero,
Yeah.
teaching her about all that. And Arlecchino goes, no one could have seen this coming. And I was like, are you sure about that? None of us saw this coming. None of you could have ever foretold that Dottore was trying to do this. Do you remember when he almost killed someone that was his research partner and friend? Do you remember when he created a fake hospital in the fucking desert? Do you remember Kale, the guy he murdered in Mondstadt?
The false god he was trying to make.
Yeah, what he did to Hypatia. Like, you guys really, no one saw this coming in the Harbingers. I just said you know so much more than the rest of us. I saw this coming. Maybe not the moons, but if he apparently has always been obsessed with the moons, you guys had more intel than me, and I still saw it coming. Anyway, Nefer lets everyone know that there's now an unknown power causing issues in Nodcry. We later find out these are like bubbles, but we'll get there. Varka is like, I hate this motherfucker. And I was like, handshake, Varka, yes. I agree. Me and Varka, we leveled here. And this is when Varka is like, he killed a former knight's father.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? So now we're blaming him for Krapus's death,
Mm-hmm.
which I got so many questions about.
Krapus being Diluc's and Kaya's father.
Yeah, Diluc's biological father and Kaya's adopted father, who we see die in the manga on Diluc's 18th birthday while he is working as the cavalry captain, and Kaya is just a quartermaster in the Knights at the time. This event leads to Arok, who was an inspector in the Knights, telling Diluc to get over it, basically. So Diluc quits the Knights, takes his father's delusion, goes to Shesnaya, and just starts murdering.
And now remind me of like what happened when Krapus died. Like they were attacked by something.
Ursa the
and
Drake.
It was Ursa. Okay, so they're attacked by Ursa, and then Krapus uses his delusion, which backfires on him, right?
Yes.
So do we think Varka is implying that Dottore gave him the delusion, or that Dottore sent Ursa after them?
Or did he give him a faulty delusion that was going to backfire?
Right.
So I think that both of these options are valid. We do find out later on in the manga that the Knights feel indebted to Dottore because he took care of the Ursa the Drake issue years
Right.
after Krapus's death. Because there's a big time jump in the manga. You have Krapus's death, Diluc's 18, Diluc runs away, and then Diluc comes back. So when Diluc is back, we learn that Dottore has taken care of Ursa the Drake. So I feel like Varka is insinuating that Krapus was just set up from the start. Like whether he was given a delusion that was going to backfire on him and Dottore sent Ursa the Drake, I feel like it was kind of a combo effect.
Right.
Like he was like, this is how I'm going to kill this motherfucker, which also makes you curious of what Krapus was involved in.
Yeah.
We know Krapus always wanted to be a knight and that he was very proud of Diluc for becoming a knight. So, you know, was he involved in espionage? Was he doing spy work like Diluc is now?
Or did he just buy a delusion on the black market?
Yes, we don't know. And on top of that, Varka says that not only did Dottore kill Krapus, but he's also guilty for many, many other crimes in Mondstadt. So I'm like, okay, yeah, he did murder that one guy after that dinner party. But what else? I have like, I guess maybe something with Kale, like they could blame, I don't know. But regardless, that is for another day. Varka, we're gonna get drunk together at Angel Share soon. Arlecchino at this point says that what Dottore is doing is treason in Snezhnaya, and that we should expect that he won't listen to anything the Tsaritsa says.
I don't know if he's ever listened to anything that the Tsaritsa has said.
I mean, he's never laid a sword upon another Harbinger until this point.
Well, wait, don't we have a, we've always had a missing Harbinger, though.
Mm.
It's like they like skipped, they made Child a little bit later.
I think the truth is they just didn't want to inflate his ego. Yes, there is an unknown 10th Harbinger.
I just wonder, like, back to what you're saying before, what is that relationship with the Tsaritsa? Like, is the Tsaritsa actually, like, cowering to him, or is she actually worse than him?
Right.
Well, we know that the Tsaritsa lets the Harbingers follow their own dreams, basically.
Yeah.
As long as they listen. So I'm assuming he listened for a bit and he got to follow his dreams.
It's still just like very sus that like she lets him run around murdering people.
Yeah.
She's like, eh.
As long as you get me my gnosis, whatever.
Yeah.
So at this point, after we learn that, we should be wary because the Surtsa really won't be able to help us, Nefer says that we're going to try to find Traveler's location using the chest box.
The chest box or the chest box?
The chest box. Enter
chest-
Lauma.
Well, not yet, though.
Which box are these in?
Sandrone then crashes in with a room full of sass. She has moved out of the bureau. She has brought all of her stuff to the curatorium. Apparently, she is moving in. Nefer has a new roommate. And she starts to say that this weird energy that's going about is Titore's energy, and it has swallowed the bureau whole.
And when she gets there, Paimon is upset and being comforted by the rest of them. And she's like, she goes to Paimon and says, just cry already.
And then she goes back to explaining what's happening, and she's like, while the baby of the group is having a moment.
This is where I start loving her. I changed on her in the previous with Moon Prayer Night, especially there was just so much with her and like that little relationship, but this has solidified my love for Sandrone.
So now Sandrone takes Arlecchino's hand with no real warning and has Polonia scan it, her robot. And she's like, ugh. And then she asks for Flynn's hand, and he's like, I thought you'd never ask, my lady. And I'm like, okay, flirt.
He's such a tryhard.
I know. I can't tell if it's just his personality or if it's him trying to fit in as a human.
Yeah.
I do appreciate it. And so then she takes Lauma's, Nefer's, and she's like, ugh, we're all cursed. And we're like, excuse me? And she's basically like, yeah, if you went into Titore's research center, we all have a curse. I don't know what it means. I tried to decipher the curse, in which case I was just shown the text that said, feel free to run or you will perish in Nod Cry. Which all right, now we're being literally punked.
I love ugh, we're all cursed. Amen, sister.
At this point, they kind of think that this is a riddle, and that if they leave Nod Cry, they will all die.
Yeah.
So they decide to kind of, take their mission to the grave, and they're going to do the best they can. We learn at this point that all the Harbingers know that we are the fourth Descender. So we just, if the rest of the party didn't know, they now know. And Titore knowing this most likely makes us safer, the Traveler. So we really shouldn't worry too much about the Traveler and what's going on, because he is most likely trying to learn more about our powers. This is when Durin shows up, and I'm like, aw, guess who's not cursed? The dragon. And he announces that the energy fields are around, if we didn't know.
Yeah.
And he says that Albedo is currently investigating them. So Lauma at this point decides that we need to try to keep the people of Nod Cry safe and find safe havens for them in case they do need to evacuate, because we do not know what's going on with this. Arlecchino is going to try to get everyone in the northern ends to Snezhnaya, and Paimon is actually going to help with going to Natlan to see if they can get the southern parts of Nod Cry to safe haven and out to Natlan, which we're evacuating a country right now, and it's very scary.
Yeah. I do like, though, that they said, well, Paimon's had, we're going to take Paimon because she got some friends down in Natlan. So normally they wouldn't be all that hunky-dory to have us over, but Paimon will just smooth it all over.
Paimon shows up without us, and everyone's like, where are they?
Yeah. A house get out.
A house no, I'm glad they're gone. Where is their body? Can I take it over? I don't need Kanich anymore. Then we Moonflower Ripple, and we're back to Columbina. She is no longer in that Moon Prayer memory, and she's back in the void, accepting that she probably influenced reality in that memory.
Yeah, and she's realizing oh, well, I don't know if this is where she realizes it, but eventually she realizes that if she affects reality, that's what causes the gravity or whatever to suck her back into the moon's reflection.
And it causes her to feel like shit.
Yeah.
Then we do some weird stuff where we unscatter elemental feathers, which I was very confused about. I did not read the directions. It took me a bit to do this. It was very easy.
Same.
I was like, what the fuck? And we end up entering a new memory, and it's when the Traveler and Varka and Lauma are going to find Nicole In which case, she touches our shoulder. And if you remember during that scene, Columbina was a ghost and yelled our name, and we turned around. You're now realizing that maybe this ghost Columbina touching our shoulder is actually what caused us to turn around.
Yeah.
Which, like, it's so funny as we get back into, like, ghost Columbina times because it's like Inception, but ghosts.
Yeah.
It's very timey-wimey,
Mm-hmm.
very Doctor Who.
She then gets winded and pulled back by that wind. And this is when she has the aha moment that you guys just mentioned of, oh, if I mess with the real life, I get pulled.
Yeah.
And then flower ripple. And we are now back to the Traveler, which I'm like, oh, thank God we're alive. And it is dark, very dark. And we realize that Totore has taken us somewhere else. We're really not sure where, but he does have the Trilune, which is his dumb moon weapon.
Which is a dumb name.
Yeah, like, and why is everything a try? I know there's 3. Like, we can get more creative.
Yeah.
Call this your, like, Doom monster. I don't know.
Trilune. I just kept thinking about, like, the bird, a loon with, like, 3 heads.
Oh, like in Heated Rivalry?
What? There's a bird with 3 heads and heated rivalry.
No, they bring up a loon. The loon scares Ilya. He's like, what the fuck is that? And Shane's like, oh, it's a loon. It's a bird. And he goes, crazy Canadian wolf bird. Because he thought it was a wolf.
It was loon as in my nerdy birdness. That was all. I did not go to the... I'm not on the Heated Rivalry side yet.
You don't like that my nerdy birdness comes from the hockey
Oh,
smut
no,
show?
I love it. Any kind of nerdy birdness that you have, I'm in for.
Nerdy
I'm all in.
birdness.
Mhm.
This is now a nerdy birdness podcast.
Yeah.
We will only be talking about the, like, 3 birds that I know. Pigeons. Pigeons.
Cardinals,
fake pigeons.
and woodpeckers.
Yeah.
I like to think that doves are fake pigeons.
They are.
They are, aren't
Mhm. Yeah, they're classy pigeons. They're in the same family.
they? Yeah.
A pigeon is actually a rock dove.
What?
Yeah, pigeons are just dirty ass doves.
They got a bad rap. They used to be helpful
Poor
to us.
pigeons.
Mhm.
Poor little pigeons. They have it rough. Their reputation precedes them.
Especially when they're dealing with Tinny.
Yeah, it's bad enough they have to hang around Timmy all day, and then
Yeah.
people are constantly killing them
Because they don't
because
like
of
Timmy.
Timmy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But back to Totore, who is truly an ugly dove. He is trying to tell us all about beauty and all of this stuff and how he can make beauty now. And the Traveler goes, false beauty is deceitful and lying is to no one's taste. And I was like, yes, tell him. So he's like, I'm really still trying to figure you out. Why do you have these morals? Like, why do you care? I'm like, okay, because I'm normal, but fine.
It's like, yeah, he's like, why do you have a conscience? I don't get it.
Where did you get a moral compass? Is this something I can buy? And the Traveler is like, bro, just kill me. I know you're too strong. And I'm not here for this. Like, if you're gonna do it, just do it. And that's when he starts to talk about, like, our last fight in Sumeru and, like, how not only has, like, he grown, but we've grown too. And I'm like, please stop comparing us.
Yeah.
And then the Traveler is, like, annoyed and is like, do you always give your opponent an appraisal before you deal the final blow? And I was like, oh my God. Antique Roadshow with the Traveler. And I'm not gonna lie, the Traveler sounded low-key suicidal. They were like, just do it. Like,
Yeah.
please, end me. I'm over it.
Yeah. No more philosophical talks. Just kill me now.
And he's like, girl, chill. You keep working with all my colleagues. You can work with me.
It feels like desperate that
Yeah.
he's like trying to win us over.
He is so jealous. He's like, you worked with all my colleagues. Why can't you just work with me? Like, what's wrong with me?
Do you think that this has something to do with the fact that he knows that we're possibly more powerful than him? Or that he's worried we might be more powerful than him and he really wants to get us on his side? Or do you think he's just like, ooh?
Yeah, I think I took it that way because he knows we're a descender, and like, I'm sure he wants to do experiments on us.
Yeah, and he's wants to collect us like he did all of his other little experiments and stuff. He wants to try and see how far it can go, but he's at the same time scared because we could be the one that stops him.
Right.
He's got to somehow in that crazy ass mind understand that he could potentially be ended.
So at this point, Traveler kind of has this internal realization that maybe they need to play along, delay him, just, waste his time. And so, in a kind of kinky way, Dottore makes us sit down in a chair and he shows us the world from the chair.
I can show you the world.
Yes, we literally fly in this chair. Like I hated it so much. He starts to tell us about the 4 shades of life, death, time, and space. He says that he's been able to transcend the boundaries that they set upon Teyvat, and that he is squandering the powers that were bestowed by the heavenly principles. He adds that equality in life can't happen until gods say that they are also servants of the living, which, like, they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where you're like, oh, am I agreeing with this bastard? He then starts to give us a taste of the Trialune. And he tells us about the powers, so the 3-headed duck from Canada. And he's like, my Trialune powers came before the 4 shades, and therefore they should prevail.
And we're like, right, and where are those moon goddesses now?
Yeah.
He, at this point, kind of starts talking a little crazy talk, and he brings up reading critiques on stories.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, B is happy. Here he is. Xavier theory confirmed. Dottore is Xavier. This was also the moment where I was like, man, Dottore would be a great cult leader. I really, in this moment, was like, he could charm. He felt like Manson. Oh,
Yeah.
or what I assume Manson was like, because I didn't know him.
I didn't know him.
I didn't know.
Only in your dreams.
No, I'm actually not a fan of Manson, so not a twink on my list. And then Dottore gives us this. He says, better to be governed by a flawed humanity than a gnosis. The true seeker of knowledge is the villain who undergoes countless tribulations in pursuit of their goal. And he's being sarcastic because he's talking about how he's perceived as a villain because of this. Also was very reminiscent of what the Voyager from the last episode's artifact set brought up about all of their mumbo jumbo about looking for knowledge and truth, which I did not like. He says, you've gotten all these rewards for Pantalone, but I was like, no, I didn't. When have I ever received an award from him?
And I was like, is he sponsors the Adventurers Guild? This is who's paying me?
I was thinking that as well.
Yeah, because he's the bank guy, right?
That's
Pantalone?
greater.
So I was just like, I'm like, what? There's a lot. He spills a lot in this little moment.
Yeah, I also was like, Xing Shou's brother, because I'm still really on that, has been giving me money. He then also calls Columbina replaceable, which of course infuriates the Traveler.
And me.
Oh, I know. Traveler's crush on Columbina is like next level.
The doctor is like, I'm better than her. I could literally give you your sibling right now and they would answer all of your questions. And he's like, have any of your friends cared for that void in your heart? And I was like, yes, Yoimiya has actually. So
Amber put a flyer up on the top of a windmill.
And I feel like Amber also asked us once about our sibling as when we returned to Mondstadt. But people have asked us. I mean, they may send me on all their weird chores, but
I mean, we've been asked 5 times at the most.
my notes do say Yoimiya and at least 2 others have asked. So, out of the 60-something playable characters, it's not a lot,
Yeah.
but it's something. And then he whispers in our ear and he says, you just want a family. And then flower ripple. And we're back to the party.
And I feel like we find out later that him saying that was very much like projection.
Oh, yeah.
Because he does bring up family at some point, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So we go back to the party, and our party now is, the typicals. It's Varka, Lauma, Nefer, Flynn's. But we have Albedo, Sandrone, Arlecchino, and Dory. She's back.
I just call them all the gang.
The game. I know. I kept calling them the party like I was playing D&D.
Oh, have you seen the new anecdote? The new D&D anecdote?
It's so good.
It's really cute.
I haven't, but it's a continuation of like Clarin's stuff, right? Like what Clarin plays during her story quest.
Yeah, it's like Clarin and
Navia. is
Navia,
there.
yeah. And they're playing with Yehoda and Eat Lua. I can never say his name.
I
Auga.
did see their outfits and I was like, oh, Yehoda's a rogue and is Elua possibly a paladin? Wasn't sure. Trying to figure it out. But I haven't played it, I've just seen it.
It's cute.
With the party, Varka is planning an evacuation route. And this is when they confirm that they got everything settled. People north of the Bureau, which is Sandrone's hub, are going to go to Shasnaya, and everyone south of it's going to go to Natlan. And they're asking the Voynich Guild for help through Nefer. We don't know a lot about the Voynich Guild. They're the one group in Nodcry that we haven't had the most exposure to in the Archon line, at least. So people who haven't played outside the Archon line are probably like, who are they? Because that's what I said. Flynn's also notes that he has a colleague that will be coming and helping us, and Dory is returning to Sumeru to catch Nahida up because Nahida is going to be pissed. Durin is returning to Mondstadt to let everyone know what is going on because according to Varka, he can get there quicker because he has wings.
Yeah. And then he offers him a little like extra present. Like, if you do this, I'm going to waive your gliding license.
Your gliding exam.
He's so excited.
He's like, fuck yeah, I've been like all of us, I have not been looking forward to that.
Yeah.
When are they gonna like let us use his wings instead of a glider?
Never.
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Probably. Well, that would make sense, though, because they give the new Adeptus, whose name is completely escaping me, she has like a little apparatus that you have to get to a certain friendship level to be able to use.
Sabai? Is that who you're thinking of?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. My brain no worky.
I understand.
And Albedo is going to stay and help Sandrone with some of her research stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Arlecchino says it's probably Fontaine related.
Uh-huh. She's like, oh, I'm gonna stay and help Sandrone with her research about, alchemy. I'm like, these two.
I will say there was a point where I don't remember if I messaged both of you or just Brandon where I was like, do I ship them? I like, oh my God, like I've never shipped Albedo with someone that wasn't me or Kaya. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, I like them together. They're fun.
It's also noted at this point that we're really not sure where Hat Guy is. And Nicole then appears to say that Alex and who the fuck is Alex? To say that Alice and the other Hexen Circle members are still at the border, but Nicole is coming here to help us instead. And she gifts each member of the party a Dodoko communications device, which has been modified by Nicole to allow long-distance calls. Thank you, Verizon. As long as we are in Nodcry. And this is where we kind of get we go and follow Flynn's here. When we follow Flynn's, we meet the beautiful baby boy master Ilua. I love him. I'm obsessed. Between him and Lohen, I don't know who I like more. Lohen is like Child if he had more manners. And Lohen is also chaotic, and I love it. And he's voiced by Finn Wolfhard's brother. So Mike Wheeler from Stranger Things' brother voices him. It's a very weird clash of worlds. Anyway, Ilua. So first off, he's mad because Flynn's is calling him master. He's like, bro, just call me by my name. And he's like, but you're so well versed in social graces. And he's like, well, what if I call you Lord Flynn's or Sir Flynn's? And he's like, all right, whatever. Flynn's fills him in on what's happening. And they understand together that they need to empty the area of Pyramida and have light keepers go around all of Nodcry to make sure that everyone is evacuated. And Flynn's reminds Ilua that he also needs to evacuate out of Nodcry. At this point, Ilua expresses some worries about why Flynn's doesn't seem to be planning on leaving as well, in which case Flynn's tells him about the curse and how he can't leave.
It is very flippant about it, which makes Ilua furious.
Yes. He's not happy. You could tell that he cares a lot about Flynn's, and he wishes Flynn's would take it more seriously.
Yeah. And then he's like, can I see you over here, please? And like pulls him aside, which is just like walking 3 steps for no reason.
Literally.
And, and he's like, "You're not a human, are you?" And Flint's is like devilish grin, like now, like, wouldn't that be, what does he say? Wouldn't that be like a horrifying thought or something like
Yeah.
that? And
Mhm.
Ela was like, ugh, whatever.
Yeah, and Ilua's like, people are like whispering about you in the streets because you
Mhm.
survived the horrors of Rerir. And Ilua, when he's like, whatever, just promise me you'll come back in one piece. And I was like, heart eyes. Oh my God. He's so sweet. And then Flower Ripple.
Flower Ripple.
Flower Ripple.
Wait, is this the part too when Yehoda tells Varka, "You're not my dad"?
No,
No, not yet.
That's
That's
later.
different.
Okay.
That's a different Flower Ripple.
That's my favorite
different
moment
Flower
of the
Ripple,
whole
okay.
quest.
And it
You're
was
not
so
my
good.
dad, you're just a cell phone.
Yeah, that's exactly.
No, this time the Flower Ripple brings us back to Columbina. We are gathering more feather fragments, heading into more memories, but this time we have a goal of leaving moonlight messages because Columbina assumes that they will use less energy. And it's what she told everyone. She was like, I will leave messages in the moonlight for you all.
Yeah, that was convenient.
Yes, and there's a weird like double entendre happening at this point because we are seeing Columbina putting these messages on the wall while the Traveler and Paimon are around.
Oh yeah, it's like a misdirect.
Yes, so we know that this is in the past, but then in the present, you also have Nefer and Flynn's who are going to investigate the flagship, which is the bar hotel that we were staying at. And there's like a vase that breaks in both scenarios. And in one scenario, it's Paimon, and in the other snenario, it's a cat. So they really like
They
freak
trick you.
out. Yeah,
You
into
mean
thinking it's the same thing.
Columbina?
Oh, did Columbina break it? Not Paimon?
Columbina,
Yeah, like when-
yeah.
Okay.
When she teleports back to reality, like,
She breaks the pot.
yeah, her Kuvaki like disturbs the space and it knocks the vase over.
Yeah. And she realizes like that didn't make her go away because it wasn't intentional.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Columbina breaks a pot, a cat breaks a pot. Columbina leaves her message, and Nefer and Flynn's break into our room. And they are kind of looking around, and Nefer's like, do these windows open? And Flynn's like, I don't know. I can go ask the manager. And she's like, no time. She picks up a mug and she chucks it. And she breaks the window and sees the message.
I love like what a like nosy menace Nefer is in this whole quest.
Mm-hmm.
She's like going through people's things, breaking into their room, destroying property. But it's for the greater good, so it's fine.
Pretty good. And this is when we go to Albedo and Sindrone. And this is when I started to question a lot about my life.
This right here, this is where you started the questioning.
I mean, the questioning of my Genshin life. How was that? I've been questioning my regular life since I was like a month old. So, as per usual, Sandrone is angry and Albedo is calm. They balance each other out, unfortunately. Albedo is informing us that the energy Dottore made is similar to Kuvaki, and it is fucking with the Kuvaki devices. Hence why Sandrone wants to use alchemy instead of continuing with Kuvaki devices. And that's why she's enlisted Albedo. She is reviewing books and incidents reports from the Narcissus Kreutz Ordo, books from Petrichor, test reports about Fontanian mech. And Sandrone adds that her detections are saying that there are 4 moons in Tevat's sky and not the usual 3, and she's very confused about this. She realizes that her scans are unable to tell apart the live and dead moons. And Albedo suggests that maybe the 4th moon is Dottore's false moon.
Yeah, his artificial moon marrow that he created.
To make his triloon.
The triloon.
What the fuck was that, Ilya? At this point, though, the Dodoko communications device goes off, and Flynn's and Nefer report back. At this point, Albedo is trying to, like, teach Sandrone social cues, like he's been doing with Turin. Very cute. I'm like, when did you start becoming, you know, the public speaker of this group?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
He's learned so much. But him and Sandrone are both very happy to hear that Columbina is most likely alive and doing well-ish. Nefer, though, does question that if Columbina was able to yeet herself into the mirror and survive. Does that mean that Thelindus and Revere are also alive? And we go over to the Traveler's stuff where there's a note from Paimon saying, feel free to use our shit while we're gone. And Nefer finds like a cute photo of us and our adventurer's guidebook, and they go through our stuff to see if anything is useful. This brought you to like a weird mechanic in the game where you play as Polonia, Sandrone's robot guy, and you're retrieving books for her. This infuriated me.
Why?
So this infuriated me because if you picked the right book first, you didn't get to learn what was in the other books.
Oh, I see.
So once you picked the correct materials, you didn't get to see what anything else was.
So you're mad that you were right?
Well, I wanted all the lore. So
I get it.
I got to read Elaine's log, a book on the apocalypse, an ancient log, Jacob Ingold's log, research notes from Master Ruggiero, an ancient log again, the Automatique Sermon Dictation, which was Renee's draft lectures, and a great detective Herlock book. I didn't really learn too much from these books, which was kind of sad. You know, I learned that Elaine was trying to convince friends to join the Institute, and he had like a sick assistant that he eventually like sends to Sumeru for medical assistance. And then he's like hemming and hawing about whether or not to move his lab until his assistant comes back because he doesn't want her to get lost.
That wasn't our friend? Did I all of a sudden assume that he was Goopy? Goopy McGooperson?
You thought he was Carter? Well, Carter did not get sent to... Wait, is his name Carter? That's my dad's dog's name.
Wait, no, wait. We called him Carl all the time. We always get it wrong.
What is his real name?
I think it is Carter, but we mistakenly called him Carl.
Oh my
for a
god,
while.
my dad just named his dog after Goop, guys. Oh my god, little baby Carter. Carter's only like, I don't know, 12 weeks old. Poor guy doesn't know what he's gotten himself into.
You should just call him Goop.
Goop.
Hey, Goop.
But yeah, he's like, I don't know if I should move my lab until my research assistant comes back, and then he just moves the lab anyway. In my book about the apocalypse, it was like ramblings from a Sumerian monk talking about how the apocalypse is coming and the Samsara is coming to an end unless we bring in new variables, in which case Sandrone assumes those variables might be descenders. In one of the ancient logs, we are hearing from Aline, who instructed the author of this log to make a mecha that could shoot energy. And he decides that he's going to retire and open a shop in town instead of continuing with Elaine's work. And he's going to fix clocks and things. So we assume that is the guy who like owns that clock shop that we had the Bennett event with. In our log from Jacob Ingold, we learn that he wants to work with Elaine, but Elaine is too strict in his beliefs. And Jacob thinks that he's going to work with someone with Renee at Institute besides Carter. Yes, I wrote Goop Carter. And Jacob says in this log, when I visited him, I found out he also attended the Narcissenkreuz Institute. So I'm assuming he's still talking about Elaine here, which is interesting that they didn't remember each other from childhood, possibly. And he doesn't tell them, he decides not to tell whoever this person is that they were abandoned by the vice director because it would make them sad. And this made sense because we know Elaine seems to be much more human than Jacob and emotional. And at the end of this log, Jacob decides to experiment on Carter, R.I.P. Goop Boy. In our research notes from Master Ruggiero, we hear about the Golden Troop, TBT to some Golden Troop lore with Cassiodor. And he talks a big game about things I didn't understand. The arcane arts and how they were from a pre-Remurian time, and that the Fortuna is a symphony, which we do know from our Remurian episode.
Yeah, they love some music.
He talks about how Remurians went to the Loch Knight Erneas, and the author of this log hints at that they went to the Golden Hunter about all this stuff, and that the Golden Hunter, who we know as Cassiodor, our cat friend, was like, stop looking into it. There was a reason they were forgotten.
Yeah, and we have an episode on Remeria, if anyone wants to travel back and take a listen to that one.
Yes, they talk about the Golden Bee and King Remus in this research notes. I was like, whoa. Then in one of the ancient logs, we learn about Dari machines, which we know are Conrian, and how they're just dangerous experiments now. And Guillotine says, which is Elaine, says that he's willing to sacrifice his own life for his research, and that this author has actually created a backup plan just in case for the Institute because they don't trust Elaine, which was interesting. And this is also where we learned that Elaine wants to make a mechanical dog, aka Seymour.
Seymour.
And that Elaine is poached by the Meretricé hunters at this point, changes factions in Fontaine, and he says something, the author, about how crazy killing machines can repair themselves. I don't know what he's talking about. And then there's just two more. Renee's draft lecture is all about explications on chemical marriage. Sorry, I thought I heard a gasp. Was it?
That was a gasp. And this is probably is not something to put in here, but is Sandrone the killing machine that can repair itself?
Maybe.
I want her to come back so fucking bad. I apologize for the gasp, but I was like, ooh.
So then this magic is set in motion by 3 particles above the kingdom, which kind of sounds like the moons, but they rely on the examination of 4 particles beneath the firmament, which we know is the heavens. The ruler of the firmament is always considered the heavenly principles. So a question of this is like referring to the 4 shades. This draft lecture from René bashes Conrian alchemy, but praises Remirian theory. And it kind of sounded like they might have been talking about the creation of visions or possibly delusions. It does say, end quote, what we speak of is the act of overlaying your dream upon the dreams of gods, of overlaying your law, your will, and the starry sky upon ineffable sacrifices and despair. So what we speak of is the act of overlaying your dreams upon the dreams of gods kind of sounds like visions?
Yeah.
Or delusions, not really sure there. The last one that I had access to was a novel about an alchemist and a clockwork saint. It was only chapter 6. It takes place in Fontaine, and the names in it are very close to ones we know are real life characters in it. And it made me wonder if this was a story written to cover up the truth. So, you know, one of our storybooks in case things get Control Alt deleted in Irminsul. And Sandrone does note that these techniques sound like occultism. But she's going to trust Albedo anyway on the alchemy, even though she thinks it's culty. She also makes us get her fucking tea at one point, which was annoying. She says that you have to establish and verify the existence of the Great Circle, Nihil, on one end and reality on the other. And then Sandrone continues saying, then add variables such as traversing the world, space, time, and civilization, abstract nodes, power that differentiates itself from void, which is light. And I was very confused. I was like, maybe I'm not meant to be with Albedo.
Like realms, the light realm.
Yeah.
Someone get me the dip.
Yes, I was like, I need it. Where is Brandon with my dip? I have chips, Brandon. This then skips over to Arlecchino, so we're jumping ship again. Arlecchino is on the beaches of Nodcry in the north, evacuating people to Snezhnaya. We find out that many of Sandrone's people have died already, thanks to the doctor, but any survivors have now joined Arlecchino's ranks. This is when we get the option to find Childe. And I was like, yay! Which Childe is annoyed. And he's like, I cannot believe that Totore built his lab right on top of the only effing path between Snezhnaya and Nodcry. Like, I had to take 7 detours to get here. It took 5 ever.
Like Girls 5 Ever?
Yes, 5 Girls 5 Ever. Such a good show. And so he informs Arlecchino that the Tsaritsa has internal affairs reviewing Totore, and if he's a true traitor or not. But regardless, Childe is here to help gather refugees and bring them to Snezhnaya. Suddenly, Childe is aghast as he watches a member of their troop turn into a monster, which I was like, oh my god. He fights the monster with Arlecchino, and he notes during the battle that Arlecchino has gotten stronger, in which case she goes, I'm not fighting you today.
He always wants to fight her.
And he's big sad. Then Childe looks at Arlecchino when the fighting is over, and he goes, what is going on in Nodcry? And I was like, yo, same. I was like, I have no idea, Childe. So Arlecchino catches him up on everything that has happened to Columbina and with the Torre and all of his bullshit. And Childe goes, what's his next DIY project gonna be? Building a god? And Arlecchino's like, ha ha, too late for that one. So this is when she informs Child about her curse. And he's like, yo, no wonder the Saritsa has put forth a wild decree. And he tells us that the decree is that while these exceptional circumstances persist, the Harbingers are hereby authorized to use unilateral executive powers. Should Dottore pose a threat, Arlecchino and Sandrone are permitted to eliminate him. Which I was like, why just the two of them? I get, like, is the Saritsa like, I'll let you guys get your revenge? Or, like, does she just not trust the rest of them?
I guess it's like you guys know what's going on and you'll know the best if he should be taken down.
You'll know the best way to murder him
Yeah.
if needed.
Mm-hmm.
Child then says, how's my old partner? AKA me, the traveler.
You mean AKA me, Amanda.
Yes, me too. I am the comrade that he speaks of. Arlecchino tells him the bad news, and Child is big sad eyes about this.
Yeah, he's very upset.
He's like, what does Dottore want with them? I have to go rescue them. And he wants to do so much more to help us. And Arlecchino is like, just complete your mission, bro. He's like, fine. He's like kicking rocks as he walks away.
Arlecchino's like, leave this to the grown-ups.
Yes. But before Child does leave to help bring some of the refugees back, Arlecchino asks him to pass on a message to Rooster. The message being, spread a message to the gods and citizens of every nation in Teyvat. Beware of an uncontrollable pollution spreading forth from Nodcry, aka Dottore's bubble juice things.
Bubble juice.
Now, I thought this was really interesting because what we know about Rooster is that he's got a big nose. He looks like Igor from Persona 5. And we know that he is good friends with Child, quote unquote. I don't really trust him.
Yeah. Doesn't the lore kind of imply that he's like a father figure to him, but he's like very manipulative too?
Yes, the lore between everyone's voice lines about him that we get suggests that, you know, he takes care of Child's family while Child is away and will like bring them gifts and like make sure they know that like he's good, especially the younger siblings.
Mm-hmm.
But the other people's voice lines almost insist that that's his way of controlling Child.
Right.
It doesn't implicitly say that, but it is implied.
Yeah.
Also, why can Rooster contact gods?
Well, that would be like Nahida and A and stuff, right?
Yeah, but how can he do that? The rooster. He's just a bird. He's just a cock.
He just flies to their nation.
Yeah.
He's just like Durin?
It just lays an egg.
Just like, oh no. Is the rooster the heavenly principles? Oh my god.
Roosters can't lay eggs. It's okay. We're safe.
That's why he had to adopt Child.
Yeah.
So that kind of ends our little like reunion with Child. I was big sad that he left.
It was nice he had a cameo, though. Love seeing our old friends.
I will say that by the end of this, there aren't many Harbingers left. So it was really nice to see one of them. Like, make sure that he's actually alive. I feel like we haven't gotten a good checkup on him since Arlecchino's story quest, when he was still recovering from all of his craziness in the abyss, fighting the narwhal. So at this point, though, we cut to Albedo and Durin, best brothers ever. Durin has returned from Mondstadt, apparently. Flying, I guess, was super quick. And they're at one of the bubbles of energy. And Durin asks Albedo, do you really think Varka's gonna, like, waive my exam for the gliding test? And Albedo's like, no. But I will help you apply for it.
I feel like that was Albedo going, he doesn't actually have, like, the authority to do that.
Yeah, that only Amber can do that. Albedo changes the conversation, though. He says that he thinks these energy fields are built off of energy from the 3 realms. I was like, oh my god, where does my emotional support be? Albedo says that the realms are light and void, that he can feel the light and void realm in this bubble, but not the abyssal energy. Like, that's MIA.
He kind of repeats something that we had learned from the Lord of the Night back in Natlan, which is that the 7 elements come from the light realm. And then, reminds us that the light realm is antagonistic to the void realm or the abyss, and notes that the energy field that's expanding does not contain abyssal energy.
He then mentions the device they used in the Rerir battle, the one that is a mixture of Kaveh and Nahida's creation, but Dory provided it,
Hmm.
and how this device allowed Columbina to use pyro energy when she really should have only been able to use light realm energy. So he thinks that that device restores elemental energy to its original state,
Yeah.
which presumes a theoretical model of 7 elements akin to that of light refracted through a prism, suggesting that perhaps it is no mere analogy. Maybe there is indeed a prism in this model, which I was like, all right, I can understand this. You put light through a crystal, a rainbow appears on my wall. Pink
Yeah.
Floyd. All right.
It's interesting that he thinks that there might be a literal prism somewhere that's splitting the light energy into the
Yeah.
7 elements. Like, would that be in Celestia? Probably.
Or is it the Traveler? No.
Maybe. Yeah, you never know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's the Traveler, or maybe it's our spaceship.
Or maybe it's the Heavenly Principles.
She's just a giant prism.
Yeah,
A
it
bird
could be.
prism. Her beak is a crystal. But I was really happy that Albedo was able to dumb this down a little for me. Albedo also questions if elemental energy can dilute the power of the light realm. So he tries his little like geoburst and it works. It puts like a little crack in this energy field. And he's like, "Ooh, it can disturb it. Maybe it can negate the field." So he turns to Durin. He's like, "Attack it with pyro." And he does, and it cracks a little more. And then he uses abyssal and it cracks more.
It made no sense to me that like elemental energy would dilute something that makes elemental energy. It just seemed weird. Like you would think that it would just make it stronger, but I don't know, maybe it's like throws it off balance or something. But the abyssal energy working really well against it does make sense to me.
Yeah, the whole light and dark kind of an idea.
Yeah.
But I think they were banking on the people like me that just glazed over and went, science works.
And me who just got up and made a 7-layer dip.
Yeah.
7-layer dip sounds so good right now.
Albedo wouldn't lie to me.
Albedo wouldn't lie to me. Ever.
Hmm.
Just about the fact that he's made a chalk for quite a few years before he finally told me the truth. But that's regardless. And Albedo is like, "All right, Hack Guy, come out." And then Hack Guy walks over and I'm like, "Aw, they really are brothers, all of them now. They can
Mhm.
feel each other."
What kind of brothers are they?
I don't know. Fun
No,
brothers.
not surprise incest.
No. Adopted incest. Found family incest. Albedo starts commanding him, though. He's like, "First off, come out from the woods, and also use your animo disc. Do it. Do it now." And he does, and it rips through the portal. So Albedo and Hakai decide that they're going to go in, and they leave little brother Durin outside on watch. I thought was very protective of them. And Durin's like, "Okay, give me a signal if you need help." Which we find out is slamming alchemy bottles on the ground where they hit each other and make a blinding light. Which surely there must be a better alternative to a sign.
I mean, couldn't they just use the Dodoko communication devices?
Literally, couldn't they have just been like, "Durin, help!" Like,
I don't know, pick up your cell phone.
like they're talking about this blinding light, and Albedo's like, "Yeah, by the way, Hack Guy, like, just like cover your eyes with your hat if we need to use it." And he's like, "Okay, thanks for the warning." But they go inside, and all the people look dead, and there are animals right next to them. And then as they explore more, they start to realize that the humans' consciousnesses are in the animals. Because we talked to a very pained animal.
Yeah.
And it's weird, man.
Which is a bird.
Yes, an ibis, right? Like, or a little one, like a duck. Was it a loon?
That's what I was thinking. Like, it's the loon. No, I think it is like
Yes.
an ibis or something.
Yeah, I don't think we have loons, unfortunately.
Not yet. Make it happen, Tiff. Write them a letter.
We need a bunch of cormorants now. Actually, we do have one of those. Okay, I'm gonna go off in a weird direction. So me and my birdness are gonna shut up.
All right. At this point, they decide we need to report back to Nefer via the Dodoko communications device, and we need to leave here before our consciousness also gets stuck into an animal. And I think Scaramouche is the one who's like, "This is just a bubble of his experiments."
It's like, ooh.
The Dottore been swapping people's minds with animals as an experiment.
Why?
Why not?
Just for fun,
Like, what was his end game there?
curiosity.
Killing the cat. Like, truly.
Yeah.
So now, after we report back to Nefer, we actually go to Nefer's perspective, where she is getting ready to enter the chess set. She enters the chess set, and she is in our mindset, and she sees us and our sibling in a field. And we're asking our sibling if we should continue following them, but we don't get an answer. And Nefer's like, meh, this is so superficial. Let me go deeper. So then, Nefer dives deeper and sees us with Dottore, where he is trying to give us our new journey, offering to recreate Conria because he can recreate anything. But then Dottore senses Nefer, but she is able to get away ASAP with the help of Nicole. She does not lose her vision. She does not go blind, but she does report back to Albedo via the Dodoko communications device that she thinks she knows where we are. It flashes to the Traveler and Dottore, and Dottore is telling us, that we closed our eyes for a whole month after Nefer was there. And he says that time is the least easy dimension to control that he now has dominion over.
So if he can control time, why 1 month? Like, wouldn't it have been advantageous to try and age us?
Well, I think he wanted us to wake up sooner because that was unexpected.
Oh, okay. It was like a byproduct.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's why he's like, time isn't the easiest to control.
Oh, okay.
I wanted you to wake up right away, but you instead slept for a month.
Oopsies.
Oopsie, I just drugged you just a little bit, put you in a coma. He continues to talk to us saying people are going to treat you like an alien soon. And the Traveler is aghast.
Isn't it weird though? Because before, when Dottore first, showed up, his time powers didn't work on us. So why do they work now?
Trilune.
I almost wondered if it was the fact that it didn't work. That's kind of my thought was, did it actually not work and he lied to us? And Nefer getting pulled out of our mind didn't really do that much to us, but he wanted to seem more powerful. And he was like, you've been asleep for a month, because we know we haven't been. When we wake up in that bubble, it's literally 5 minutes later.
Yeah. Or maybe it just took him time to master. Maybe it didn't work the first time because he hadn't mastered it, which he obviously still hasn't, but.
Yeah, well, he's a dumbass, so.
Yeah, I mean, I did honestly think it was because he was never able to do it before because I was using his own powers and now he has the Trilune. So that gave him the additional powers. It's kind of proves how much how dangerous it is.
His artificial marrow gave him more control over it. That would make sense.
And this is when he's like, people are going to treat you like an alien soon, and I feel bad for you.
He confirms that we don't have a regular human lifespan, that we are a long life species.
And he says he feels bad since no powers will give us the one thing we want, despite the fact that we've given so much. And then the flower ripples. And we're back to Columbina. And she has gone back in time to the first battle with Rerir, which was just the Traveler and Flynn's. And we find out in this situation that Columbina actually did have a big hand in protecting Hisey Island after all. If you remember during the fight, Hisey Island had 2 waves of Kuvaki go over and protect it when the big laser beam was pointing that way.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out that it was, in fact, Columbina, but she uses so much power in her second ghost phase that she ends up passing out. And she kind of has a flashback to Sandrone waking her up. And Columbina is napping in Sandrone's very Fontanian-themed room. We find out Sandrone has baked cookies, that she's getting together with Signora. But she tells Columbina she can have a cookie, and of course she digs in. Sandrone is now talking to Columbina and being like, so why did you leave Nodcry? You're their god. Shouldn't you have stayed? And Columbina's just life didn't go as planned. Columbina deflects and is Dottore told me that you were built by someone called the something Fisher. And Sandrone's pissed and she's like, the Lord Artificer. And Sandrone's like, yeah, I was. And Elaine had asked me if I had any wishes of my own, but I said no. This comes up later. So when Elaine was dying, he was like, is there anything I can do for you, Sandrone? And she was like, no, I'm content. And then at this point, Columbina wakes up from her memory or dream, and she is back in the moon's reflection. We do more fragment abyssal puzzles.
Oh, and before that, when they're like talking about their past, it's interesting because Sandrone says, neither of us is the self-sacrificing type. Foreshadowing.
So then Columbina wakes up from this memory or dream, and she's back in the moon's reflection. She does another fragment puzzle, except this time there's like a little bit of abyssal spice added in, and she ends up back at the Final Night Cemetery. If you remember, we went there with Flynn's. That's where the not great lighthouse is that we do fix in a side quest. And if you remember, we had to find books. And we find out that Columbina was the one who actually pulled the books out for us. If you remember, they just were falling.
Mm-hmm.
And then after she gets all the books and files for us to read, she sees Lunatar and gets pulled back to the moon's reflection. When we then enter what is assumed to be a final memory. And it's our first time going to Hisi Island as the Traveler and Paimon. This is when Columbina realizes that maybe she can make Lunatar as a piece of her like soul and leave it to follow with the Traveler. So she makes a flower, it floats through the air, turns into the Lunatar that we first saw that Paimon was like, scram! We got shit to do. And then we part ways, and Columbina does not get pulled out of this memory, but goes off to do something else. But we then get pulled back to the evil doctor and us.
This, by the way, I believe is where Act 8 starts.
Oh, really? This is it?
Yeah.
I had no idea. It just kept going. Because I was like, oh, I'll go to bed when I finish Act 7. And then it was 3:30. I was like, oh my God.
It really didn't feel as long, like the quests didn't feel as long as they are when you're playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like mentally, I felt like I didn't play for like 7 hours.
Yeah.
Watching it back, I was like, oh my God, this is so long.
Yeah.
So Dottore is offering to build the Traveler a new world for them to rule, but only if they'll kill people or allow people to be killed.
We could just have one condition
Yeah.
for unlimited power. You got to be a murderer like me.
And like Rerir. I felt like it was a very interesting like comparison there.
Well, what's really crazy is Traveler is like seriously pondering it.
Because he's a cult leader.
Traveler like fell under Dottore's cult spell.
Mhm.
Like, maybe I could be a murderer. And the only reason that Traveler says no is because they remember like, oh wait, it didn't work out well for Rerir, so maybe I shouldn't.
Yes. So we decline, and then we get a beautiful cutscene where we attack Dottore, and we basically start a war with him. And then Hack Guy breaks into the bubble using his Anemo discs, grabs us, and literally just flies out with us.
Mhm.
And Albedo and Durin are outside the bubble just catching up. We all run to the woods and go as far as we can. We realize the Hack Guy is hurt, but he says that we're even from now on because he owed us a favor from saving him in Sumeru.
Yeah, and Traveler's moved, knowing Hat Guy's backstory and understands like how meaningful it is that he kind of squandered his best chance to finally get revenge on Dottore
Mhm.
by rescuing them. So Traveler doesn't take it for granted that he did that. Also, I think it's interesting that when Wanderer comes in and snatches Traveler, Dottore says, a new face. Interesting.
Yes.
So that's showing that he doesn't remember Scaramouche, which I was kind of wondering about since he does have, these moon powers. I was like,
Mhm.
does that mean that he can sort of like transcend Irminsul or anything? And I guess not.
Yeah.
Also interesting because Wanderer brings that up as well. He's like, now I'm on his radar. So I won't be able to get revenge because he now knows who I am. He'll be able to get intel about me. I guess because that's what he does, Dottore. He's like, ooh, the Tiffany? Let me get some intel on her. Like, starts Facebook
Research.
stalking you. Like,
He's just gonna find out that I am deathly afraid of clowns, and he's gonna throw mushrooms at me. And that's basically how you defeat me.
oh, I'm gonna keep note of
And
that.
bridges.
Yeah,
Well,
and bridges.
take-
Put
take
me
you
on a
to a
very high
bridge.
bridge with all of this happening, and that's it. I will turn to goop.
A bridge full of mushrooms and clowns.
Yeah. Honestly, the idea of it is making me sweaty.
Oh,
Think of loons, Tiff.
no.
So now it cuts to the party again, where Arlecchino has recently informed Sandrone of the new decree, giving them permission to kill Dottore. And then Albedo, Durin, and Hat Guy walk in with us in tow. Paimon bawls her fucking eyes out.
Mhm.
And Yehoda and Varka both cry too. And this is when Varka tries to hug Yehoda.
Yeah. And she says, ew, you're not my dad. And if I didn't love Yehoda before, it was like my favorite part of the whole quest.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
You're not my dad. I was like, wow, you have dad issues, don't you?
And then we go back to, you're not my dad. You're
You're
just
a
a cell phone.
phone.
I threw it on the ground. Thank you, Andy. So good.
The thing is so old and we reference it so much. Like, we reference it in real life a lot.
I was just gonna say, like, any family birthday party, we're like, happy birthday to the
the
crown. I want to know, though, would you guys have taken the hug from Varka at this point if you were Yehoda?
I would have reacted exactly like Yehoda did.
I'm huggy, so there's a good chance I was going to hug everybody.
I think I would have also hugged him. I would have been like, oh, like
I would
think
have been mad
afterwards-
about it.
Oh, I think I would have been here for it. I'm like, okay, thanks, Dad. I'm like, this is how you get all those Mondstadt kids.
It would be one of those things where I'd be like, "Ugh, don't make me like you. I've hated you for years. And now you're not living up to my expectations of being a douche."
Don't worry, he'll do it again.
So Traveler catches everyone up on everything that they have learned while with Dottore, and Flynn's and Nefer tell the story of the Columbina's message. So now everyone is on the same page. But what happens? Nicole happens. Nicole sneaks in and recaps the creation of the moons and their disappearance to everybody. And then Flower Ripple. And we're back to Columbina, who is back to the Shadow Realm, aka the moon's reflection. And she's very upset because no memory portals have appeared, but there seems to be a lot more abyssal energy. And she keeps walking, and who do we see but motherfucking Rerear?
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I'm chill now.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And we're like, what?
Yeah. He totally is just like, oh, you know what? Forget all that stuff when I was trying to kill you.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to fight. Ever since I saw Dainsleif, hashtag broken heart, I felt different. Like, I was like, oh, Dainsleif. Also, where are you, Dane?
Yeah, and he explains that the first time he was sent there, he got torn to pieces, but this time he's intact because of his new body, and he also thinks it's because of all the Kuvaki he absorbed in Nodcry. So I was glad they explained that.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of like cleansed him a bit of the abyss. Like, it
Yeah.
seemed. Like, almost like the abyss is what broke off of him
Yeah.
in his arrival. But also, and I know this is an Amanda hyperfixation, and I've accepted that fact, but this really made me go, where has Dainsleif even been? Like, after we throw Rerear through the portal, he just disappeared. Like, is he still in Nodcry? Is he seeing all this bullshit go down and not getting involved again?
He went to go feel his feelings.
Oh, he's crying in a corner. Okay. I guess I can get behind that.
I also love it that Marir confirms that it was Dottore who gathered the fragments of his body and resurrected him and
Mhm.
created the Wild Hunt. So we're like, oh, wow. So like every bad thing that's happening in Nodcry was because of Dottore.
I'm sorry. I need to correct you, Brandon. Every bad thing that's happened ever is because of this man. I feel like we'll find out that everything just goes back to him.
Probably.
Maybe he's the first angel.
Oh, God.
Maybe he's Nibelung.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe he's the
stop.
Voyager.
The Voyager. That makes sense since he's voyeuring. Rerear does say that when he arrived, there was a lot of abyssal energy and he was able to reject it, and that all the voices in his head stopped, which was nice. And he was able to see Stelindis, and that he believes she is dead, but that part of her soul is still in the moon's reflection. And he can't really go to see her because he can't move freely like Columbina does. So he's like, can you pass along a message to her if you see her? She's like, sure. and she is able to clear up the abyssal obstacles in her way.
And she's like, what do you want me to tell her? And he was like, well, I've been asking myself why lately. And he's like, I was used by people and then I used others and I hurt a lot of people. I'm like, hurt? You killed a lot of people.
Yeah.
And he wants the Lindis to know everything that happened to him after they were separated. And Columbina, my favorite Columbina is sassy Columbina.
Yes.
She's like, can I tell her the abridged version? Like the part where you relentlessly tried to kill us? I loved it so much.
Yeah. She's like, let me bring you back.
Also, Columbina, before she leaves, is like, I just want to let you know that Dainsleif had remorse in not understanding what you were going through. And Revere was like, why would you tell me this? And she's like, I feel like if he knew I could pass on a message to you, that's what he would have wanted me to say. And I was like, why is this whole like Revere Dainsleif friendship making me so emotional? Like, I don't know. There's just something about the two of them that like makes me really sad because Dainsleif generally seemed like a happy guy. And then all of a sudden, like his best friend betrayed him, his brother betrayed him. He became immortal. The whole fucking city fell. Like, there's something about their friendship that makes me really, like, sad. Like, I just want them to, like, be able to, like, bro it out again.
Do you have a friend that turned evil, Amanda?
Yes, actually, I have at least several. I have 30 friends that have turned evil, guys.
30?
That's
Damn.
not my fault. I am not the connector.
No.
That at all. Anyway, though, Columbina goes on, and she does end up running into Thelindis, who is beautifully fragmented. They did an excellent job with her design.
Yeah.
And we tell her the message from Rerir, and Columbina tells Rerir's abridged story.
Mm-hmm.
And after hearing it, Thelindis is a little like, huh.
She's like, you sure you want to hear this, girl?
Yeah.
And Thelindis is like, I need to know the truth. She's like, he murdered a bunch of people.
And he tried to murder me.
But her reaction's like, oh, I guess it got worse before it got better.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
He was
Classic
murdering people when he was
Thelindis.
alive, too.
Yeah.
I'd ignore genocide for you.
Yeah.
I hate them. They're the worst.
But Thelindis does say that her body was torn apart when she jumped through the portal. And she wonders if she had been leveraged by the Abyss to jump in. Like if the Abyss kind of led her down the path she went down because the Abyss knew if she did that, they would get control over Rerir.
It's interesting. She says that the reason she even did it was to try to go into the past to stop Rerir from going down this path.
Because maybe genocide does bother her a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
Only a smidge.
Just a little bit.
Only when it kind of ruins her plans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was even hoping to go back and stop the Vinster King from meeting the prince.
And that bitch was going to kill our brother or sister.
Yeah.
Which, like, great. I'm okay with it. I don't know. Personally.
Yeah, which I didn't understand why she couldn't, because she says that she couldn't kill the Vinster King herself. So she went back to try to kill her sibling. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you be able to kill the king?
I wonder if it was because she wouldn't have been able to get close enough.
That's what I was thinking. But I didn't know if he had like some kind of power or like immortality or something.
She probably would have had to have gone through Rerir and Dainsleif too, I was thinking.
Yeah,
you know,
probably.
where they'd be like, what are you doing, girl? This little weird, like, King Arthur group. Columbina then says, peace out to Thelindis, continues moving on, collapses, and then wakes up to see a pink-haired moon goddess.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh my god, the real. And then we go back to the party, and I was like, no! How dare you!
The flower ripple betrays you.
As always. So we go back to the party where we're learning still about the moons, and the moon goddess is dying and being yeeted through the false sky by Nicole. And then Hawkeye asks to talk to us in private.
Yeah, and Sandrone tells everyone that she's working on a way to save Columbina, but that she's running out of computing power.
So when we get pulled aside by Hack Guy to talk to him in private, he says the only reason he thinks that Dottore hasn't like tried to hurt us again and attack is either because he's working out the kinks of his powers or he's waiting to see how we react to what just happened. Of course, Wanderer is very mad because he feels like this is just Dottore's way of continuing to make a false god. He just doesn't have Scaramouche there to be his gnosis and his puppet.
Right.
So Wanderer says that Nahida is going to tell the other gods what is going on, and they'll either help us or help protect the rest of the world from turning into Nodcry if we cannot control these energy bubbles. We note, though, that he looks kind of worried, and he's like, yeah, bitch, my op is about to get what he wants. My whole point has been to take him down. And then he says, do you truly trust Sandrone? And we say yes. And he says, okay, if you trust her, I think I can help with her computing issues.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm a computer.
Well, what's crazy is he tells Sandrone that the world is constantly processing a huge amount of information, which I'm like, so it is a computer?
I know.
And Sandrone is like incredulous and is like, you can't be implying that I plug my formula into the ley lines. And then Wanderer, is like, I'm sure you've noticed that I'm not a human. And she says that she did notice it, but that the technology is more ancient than what was ever even used in Fontaine. And Wanderer confirms that he's made with Conrian technology, and that puppets like him have cores capable of large processing power, and that she can borrow his core because it is made from the wood from Irminsul. And she's like, you realize that you could die from this, right? And he's like, yeah, it's fine.
And I was like, wait, what? No, I was like, I can't lose another person, Wanderer. How dare you suggest this?
And he seems amused by the fact that like his core proved to be more useful than having a real heart, which I guess, he always wanted. And wonders if his decision to do this means that he's become a real human. He kind of has that moment with Traveler. It reminded me of him finding his friend's heart in that. Was it like his friend's, like, didn't Dottore cut out his friend's heart and put it in a box for him to find?
Yeah, it was Niwa, I believe.
Yeah. So that is sort of like a interesting full circle thing.
Also, just depressing. Just throwing that out there too.
Mm-hmm.
They also get into like this weird squabble at this point about who's like more academic. And Scaramouche is like, I've published more papers than you, Sandrone. And even Paimon has applied for the academia. Which like made me think of Al Haytham's birthday card lore from this year where he was talking about Paimon and the academia.
And they show Detective Paimon.
Yeah.
It's fucking stupid. They're like, it's just like we're having this big serious conversation about like how Wanderer might die, how he's made of Conria and Irminsul tech, and like all this stuff. And it's like, but also Sandrone, fuck you. I'm more academic, and so is Paimon. Like,
yeah, you can tell he does not like Sandrone.
I also think he loves fucking with them now that they don't know who he is.
Yeah.
There's definitely some level of like karma happening in his head. Anyway, though, they decide to tap into Wanderer's core. And she does say something like, Sandrone, like, who the fuck built you?
Yeah.
And he's like, that doesn't matter. And we find out that everyone's really worried. Dern and Paimon very specifically are worried about Hack Guy. And someone needs to watch Hack Guy while he is coreless. And Hack Guy said the only people he trusts are Traveler, Albedo, and Durin to watch him. And I was like, yes, new friends. But since the Traveler is apparently going to be very busy, Albedo and Durin are kept on defense duties. So then we flower ripple. And we are again back to Columbina, who is meeting Sonnet of the iridescent moon. This is the pink-haired moon goddess. She looks at Columbina and she's like, you and Canon have the same powers. And Canon is from the frost moon. where we also meet her. She has blue hair. And then we meet Arya of the Eternal Moon, who is blonde. Did you have a favorite Moon Sister design?
I love them all.
Ooh, I really liked Arya's design, but I also loved Sonnet's. The only one that I was like less enthused about was Cannon's.
Cannon's, I felt, was the least impressive just because it was the most familiar.
Yeah.
I was enamored with all of them, and I took 45 screenshots of them because I was just like, they are gorgeous.
They are really pretty. All overall great design for each of them.
Very Greek.
Mhm.
Yes. Grecian goddesses.
So Sonnet is not surprised to hear that the stories of the moon goddesses are long gone from Tavat, and they inform Columbina that this is where Nibelung imprisoned them. I'm like, oh my god, you guys have been imprisoned in this like reflection of the moon? How terrible. They mention and tell Columbina that they ruled until the first descender of Tavat showed up, aka the great ruler of the firmament, aka the heavenly principles, aka Bird.
AKA the primordial one.
aka the
So
primordial one. There's a lot.
yeah, I do like that it sort of confirms that the primordial one and the heavenly principles are the same character. Because I know in the past we've wondered, if that's like we suspected that to be true, but we weren't 100% sure. So I'm glad that that's cleared up.
Yes, definitely. Sonnet, we find out, was very against the heavenly principles from the start, but the other two moon goddesses wanted to test the waters with them. Eventually, they realized the heavenly principles seem to fear life forms that seek power, and then they mentioned the use of the sky nails.
Yeah, they said that the heavenly principles had an almost paranoid hostility to certain beings seeking power, or perhaps they were scared of it.
Which, like, not for nothing, but you're like a colonizer. Like, of course, people are going to be scared of you and like looking for power. Like, you colonized. Like, this is what you should have expected.
Yeah.
I hate when like colonizers don't get it.
They also said when they're talking about the sky nails, they said that, the heavenly principles would even cast down celestial nails as manifestations of their power to punish the civilizations below. And to me, that almost seems to indicate that the nails might not have all come down at the same time, which I always just assumed they did.
We talked about that in our last episode.
Yeah. Now I'm just thinking like they were just sent down, depending on what the civilization was doing at the time. But I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's still hard to determine.
Yeah.
But I wonder if also like this is kind of the questioning of like time also comes into place. Like maybe they didn't all happen in the same minute, but they happen within the same year type of thing, where it's like
Right.
all of these nations learned their lesson in the year AD 6. I don't know.
Yeah. So I hope they'll clear that up in the future. I want more details on the sky nails, please.
Please and thank you. So at this point, though, the moon goddesses, they tell us that at this point in the story, they had decided to fight back. And right after they decided to fight back against the heavenly principles, Nibelung returned and the War of Funerary Flame started. They then learned the truth of their moons from Columbina, and they learned that the heavenly principles won. So now they know that their moons are yeeted across the false sky, and that, the moons were no longer in power, Nibelung wasn't in power. And they realize that they're going to disappear if they leave this place, since their moons are gone and dead. Dun, 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 dun.
Except for the frost moon.
Except for the frost moon, but also like, yes, because isn't Columbina like the reborn version of the frost moon?
Yeah.
So it's very wishy-washy with certain things. Then we flower ripple back to Sandrone, who is computing. Wanderer is meditating in a corner, and Sandrone is questioning things that she may not know about the moons, and she's wondering if the alive ones or dead ones is a variable she should be considering. Does moon marrow count, or does it not count as a living moon? Like, what is going on here? And every time she tries to redo her variables, redo her experiment, redo her scan, she's still getting that there are all these moons, and she cannot figure it out. Nicole at this point intercepts and says that she still thinks that Columbina is alive. And maybe that the moon goddesses are alive. And that's where Columbina is, with them.
This part is so funny because Nicole's just like has figured everything out.
Yeah.
She's like, maybe they're in the moon's reflection, and that's where Nibelung imprisoned them. And maybe Columbina created Luanatar as an anchor that she left by the traveler's site. It's like, Nicole, you could have saved us so much time.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I feel like she did that to us the last time too.
Well, the true thing here is that she thinks nobody wants to hear her monologue, so
Yeah.
she keeps quiet. And I'm like, no, Nicole, I'm actually very curious about what you have to say.
Yeah.
And it's much more interesting than whatever Sandrone is saying, because I don't understand half of it. And then Sandrone kind of interrupts what Nicole is saying, and she's like, I definitely think Columbine is alive, just not in a form we may recognize. And that's when they all look at Lunatar. And they're like, And Lunatar's like, what? What? I'm just a little guy. Then we go back to the moons. In which case, they're all still kind of catching up, and Sonnet's like, I really wish I had befriended people on Teyvat. And then they're asking Columbina what her powers are. And she's like, oh, like Kuvaki? Like, it's like in the earth. And they're like, what?
Like, but that's just your moon power.
And she's like, well, I've never had power, so no. And they're like, But Columbina's like, listen, my powers aside, I need the trilunar help here. And Canon says that if she were to get all three of the moon's powers, it could tear Columbina apart. And Columbina's like, that's a risk I'm willing to take. And then we're back to the party. I'm like, damn it. Like, someone give me a linear story here. Like, I'm struggling. So we go back to the party, and they are realizing that we may be able to see Columbina's memories through Lunatar. But if she does this, there's a very high chance that she's going to go blind. And Lauma is like, girl, you can't do this. And Nefer's like, just let me live. Yehuda is also very upset, but it's because she's apparently made a deal that if anything like that were to happen to Nefer, she would become in charge of the curatorium, and she is not ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
Then Lauma gives like a nice little blessing or something to Nefer's eyes with her silver titties, and they start.
She's like, here, motorboat me real quick.
And in. I can't.
It's like, it's magical. It'll help you. Let me bless you.
Okay, motorboats aside. I've never seen a motorboat in this game of any variety, just so you know.
It's off screen.
It's all, damn it, the Duffer Brothers. So we go back to Columbina, who is telling the three Moon Sisters that her plan is to die here and be reborn in the future with our help. And Columbina ensures these Moon Sisters that we will find her and receive her message. So basically, she's going to leave her soul in the moon's reflection, and she's going to use Lunatar to be reborn. And the Moon Sisters realize that this prison can't trap bodies, but can trap souls and authority. So that should work. So Columbina is going to use her soul and spread her moonlight over Nodcry. AKA, she is now in the past creating the Kuvaki energy that Nodcry relies on.
She is the Kuvaki.
Yes, and she will use all of that Kuvaki energy to bring her soul out of the moon's reflection in the future.
Yeah, because the Kuvaki is basically her physical body.
Mm-hmm. Which really makes sense of why Columbina was so weak. Because she literally was fed the earth with her blood.
Mm-hmm.
Bathe
in blood. So Canon, though, has one question before she will help. She says, why do you cover your eyes, Columbina? And I was like, yeah, Columbina. Why do you?
Like, well, I used to be emo. And Canon's like, grow up. Like,
it's just a phase.
Yeah. When you return to the world, you've got to open your eyes.
Yeah, Columbina is just like, I didn't want to look on the world that like didn't like me and want me and blah, blah, blah. So they do the souls awaiting the sun ritual. or part of the ritual. It's very confusing, which I thought was interesting because we know Nibelung most likely left to go get a son or like fix the sun originally. So I was like, oh, Soul's awaiting a son, and this is part of the ritual.
Hmm.
But regardless, Columbina does become the Trilune goddess and is now the one and only moon goddess in all of Tevat. Not you, Dodoray. You don't get to be one. And they do ask Columbina to send them home so that they can spend their final moments together as they give her these powers. And I was like,
Yeah.
It'd be cool if we found out that they're still alive somehow.
Mhm.
But also, don't you think that's interesting? Because, like, we know this is all in the past. So doesn't that suggest that the moon goddesses returned to Tevat once more in the past? And that's never been written anywhere.
Well, I mean, they're implying that they're about to die. So it's like they're just going back for their final moments.
They hugged and then collapsed, basically.
Mhm.
How sad.
Does this mean, though, that she was the original moon goddess and her rebirth is this moment? Like, did she go that far back? Like, is it,
Yes.
this is the literal rebirth that she's just like, I just woke up here.
Yes. This is like what led to her being born 500 years ago or
Mhm.
whatever. Yes. She basically controlled her whole fate.
So she was the original.
Well, she wasn't the original Frost Moon goddess
Why?
because that is
Canon.
canon.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Looking right at the bitch. Forgot all about her.
She is the reborn, though. Like, she's the first reborn of canon, the second reborn of canon.
Yeah.
She is everything of
She's going to be the
canon.
third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
Yes. But she wrote her own fate, which I think is really timey-wimey.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, that's how this game fucking works. So we go back to the party, and we find out that the party just saw all of this. So now they are very in the know. And Yehuda is shook. And Nefer still has her vision. Thanks, titties.
And they're just they conveniently explain it of like, oh, I guess her eyes turned out okay because Columbina set aside some power for her for this specific moment. And it's like, huh? Like, when did that happen and how did
Yeah.
she do that? Like, Columbina can save someone's eyesight? Like, it seemed odd.
They
And-
just didn't want to admit it was titty magic.
yeah, exactly. They were like, let's not talk about the motorboating.
Mhm.
Yes, we only talk about that in secret. We then get a report in from Arlecchino that we can move on with the plan because civilians have all been moved. And then they're talking, and this is so random. Vivarka notes that there's an advanced elemental theory section in the library. So he skipped school, guys, but he knows what library sections there are. Nicole and Varka have a side conversation where she notes that Varka seems very troubled. And Nicole is all, well, you weren't like this when you approached the Hexen Circle for the Hexen Circle trial, which is A, the trial we see in Varka's trailer, but B, the same trial that Albedo and Traveler go down in parallelogism when they are trying to get the Hexen Circle's help to make Durin human.
Mhm.
Although the difference is we know Varka just did it for fun, and so he
Yeah.
could have favors from the Hexen Circle, which was smart, honestly. And I also thought this was interesting because I was like, I thought Nicole didn't know who Varka was when we first met her.
No, she just says that Alice didn't talk about him.
Okay.
Because he was just like, Alice must have mentioned me a bunch of times, and she was just like, no, not once.
But does that mean that she wasn't there though? Because then Varka's never met Nicole.
Yeah, it seemed like Varka was meeting Nicole for the first time. He may have forgotten about her.
Or maybe she was like a Dodoco or something. at the
Yeah,
time.
maybe.
Varka lets Nicole know that he thinks things are just really bleak and he wishes there was a way to summon Barbados for help because he understands that the literal fate of all of Tevat is now in their hands. Nicole, I think, tries her best to be inspirational here, which, like, having Varka and Nicole trying to be inspirational is always fun. And Nicole's like, Tevat has been through so much and has still given us great heroes like you, Varka, because you and all humans are very special. Which backhanded compliment. He then asks Nicole why Alice sent her, and she's like, you know, it's because of my powers. Like, I'm going to be able to help you more. And Varka's like, all right, well, I think that the defense mechanisms that you're going to offer us are going to help, but if we don't get your help, I think they're going to fail. The goal is basically just to slow Dottoro's advance. in hopes that they will be able to bring Columbina back before he does too much damage.
Right, using Sandrone's world formula thing.
Yes. So, which I don't know if we've learned about that yet, but she's going to be doing a thing. We'll talk about that in a second. And Varka does ask Nicole to prepare for whatever comes next, even if they have to fight. He wants her protection over the party, and Nicole's very surprised to hear that he's finally cashing in on his last Hexen Circle favor. But she says that her and Alice already planned to help. She shares their plan, and Varka's impressed by it, but us as the player are left in the dark. So we have no idea what this plan is. Traveler then goes and runs into Sandrone, which I thought was interesting because she's like, oh, just the person and non-person I was looking for. So she's like suggesting that Paimon isn't a person, which is like, okay. And this is when Sandrone tells us about the formula in her device and how it has to be complete in order for Columbina to return. So she's able to connect her progress to the Dodoko communications device with Nicole's help so that we are able to see when it's going to be done. And this is when we go outside and we're supposed to be like catching up with our friends before we go to battle. And the first thing I noticed was the weird gold barrier. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, I had no idea it was Nicole's powers or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I was so confused. And I honestly thought it looked like Albedo's, like gold and stuff. So I was like, is gold here? I hate her. But we do learn eventually that this is a border put up by Nicole. So we go to talk to our friends. The first person we talk to is Durin and Albedo, who are very happy that Nicole is helping us. And they explain that the weird golden border is the golden flame, which is Nicole's power. And these two fools are left in charge of Nasha Town. Flynn's, when we catch up with him, he's like, I'm gonna use my full fate energy to fight this hoe. Like, nice. And then Nefer and Lauma are having like an argument about using formal names with one another and how they really are friends now. And Lauma heals the traveler just in case as we get ready to go into battle.
Nefer's so shady in this part.
Mm-hmm.
Llama's like, well, I think that, we're a lot friendlier with each other than we used to be. And Nefer's just kind of like, not really.
Now, remember these groups because these groups are also the groups that we fight in as these monsters now start to show up. And when these monsters show up, Albedo is so calm. I was like, bro, did you take like a Xanax before this? Like, how? So chill. Also, the enemies that show up are so strange, and the only thing I could liken them to was the nobodies, which are enemies in Kingdom Hearts. They were weird, weren't they?
Yeah.
I just remember some of them looking like Fatui agents and some looking like Wild Hunt people.
And then others looked like little like squid monsters. Like, it was very odd.
Maybe they were experiments. Maybe Dotori
they were like
created them.
metal. Ugh.
Then we fight in all these separate groups, and then Dottore shows up, and he calls himself a creator god, and says that before he kills us, he wants to inform the whole world of who their new god is. And he creates a hand platform in the sky that we all float up on, and we have a fight with Dottore.
And then he splits the sky open to reveal the hidden frost moon.
He also looks like Tron at this point. He's got like a AI hand.
Oh, yeah.
It's very strange. The whole time I'm fighting him, I'm going, Jesus Christ. He separates our friends from us one by one, reveals the moon behind the false sky. He also has there's like some interesting fight dialogue, which was like, don't look at him because it's like rude to look directly at a god and you might get smited was like the idea. And while he's fighting, he says that he once saw Columbina as a sister until she decided he didn't like his experiments and stopped talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't understand why she stopped. And he genuinely does seem really sad to have missed like the opportunity at having a family, which you guys mentioned earlier.
Yeah. He's like, why doesn't anyone like me? Like, because you're evil.
And Traveler's like, you're not fit to be family to Columbina. And I was like, ooh. He offers to work with us again and is like, I'm going to count to 10. And if you want to, by the end of 10, you can do it. Otherwise, I'm going to kill you. And so we tell him to fuck off. And he's like at 5 maybe when Polonia and Sandrone show up. But what's crazy is that Dottore knows of Sandrone's formula.
And it's not finished processing yet.
Nope. He crushes Polonia, almost kills us, but Sandrone sacrifices herself and jumps in the way and gets killed herself.
Were you excited to see the like flying spike blade things that we see in the manga?
Yes, they were like his little needle things that he used to kill the guy in Mondstadt.
Yeah, I was excited. I was like, oh,
Consistency.
yeah.
It doesn't happen all the time. Also glad to see it wasn't just that weirdo Segment's powers. He was such a creep. Sandrone tells Dottore to go to hell before she dies, and she has a flashback to Elaine. And the flashback is when Elaine is like, is there anything that you wish, Sandrone? Which we saw earlier in the flashback with Columbina. We do not hear an answer. Also, though, at this point, I was like, all right, if she's dead and the core's not done, where the fuck is Hat Guy? Is he dead?
Mm-hmm.
I became very concerned for Wanderer in this moment.
I was concerned for everybody.
Then Dottore starts to monologue to the Traveler about Sandrone not trusting others being her downfall, but the Traveler Uno reverse cards it onto him and is like, that's actually you, bro. And then all of a sudden we get what I thought was really cool, and we get to see that Varka and Arlecchino are working together using Nicole's powers to bring the moon down. I had a lot of respect at this point for Varka. I was very impressed. Well, I just feel like Arlecchino is like blessed with the power of the moon. And Nicole's an angel. And so for a mere human to be working with the two of them, you know?
Well, he is the Knight of Boreas.
Yeah, what does that really mean though? I could be the Knight of Boredom, like...
You'll find out in his story quest.
No spoilers. Columbina, as they pull down the moon, which Dottore tries to zip up the moon and zip it away back behind the Volsky, but it doesn't work. And then Columbina arrives, and she is in a new form. She has beautiful wings, and she gives Dottore the beatdown of a lifetime.
With her eyes open.
With her eyes open. She brings him all the way back down to Teyvat out of his floating hand jail, brings all of our friends back, and we all beat the shit out of him. And then it's 2 weeks later, which I was like, whoa. What? Oh my god. Like, what whiplash? So we go back to Nasha Town, and a lot of the people have returned. The refugees from Natlan and Snezhnaya, they are back in Nodcry. Through Paimon, we learned that as soon as Columbina returned, the Lunatar disappeared, so I guess she got the piece of her soul back. And Traveler apologizes to Paimon for scaring her so much. And Paimon's like, oh, you know, it's fine. You could just treat me to like a lavish meal. And so the Traveler takes her out to lunch, and Yehuda comes over to find us, and Paimon burps. And it was wild. We're like, shit, man. But Yehuda comes to find us to make sure we know what day today is. It is the inauguration of the League, where all the groups in the region are coming together to create a league and protect Nodcry moving forward after having 2 disasters in a row, Rerir and Dottore.
Yeah.
We're going to this big ceremony, but we're going to say hi to our friends first. So first we run into Aino and Anefa, who are helping the Frost Moon Scions give out food. And this little kid comes over and he wants a picture with Anefa because, like, you know, he was like, you saved my life. You saved my family. And Aino's like, what about me? I made her. And he's like, well, you took my snacks. Just like, damn it, I know. And also, I don't know if this happened to you guys, but like while I was like having this conversation, a Melazine just popped up in the background and was like staring at us. And I know it was just like the NPC Melazine that's there.
Yeah.
But like she was staring at us. And I was like, this is so uncomfortable. But, you know, my personal experience there. Then he wants to take a picture, so the Traveler offers to like go take the picture or whatever. We then go and find Flynn's and Ilua, and we find out that Ilua is going to be the representative for the Light Keepers in the League and not Flynn's. And Ilua is like, bro, you should be doing this and not me. And Flynn is like, no, like, people don't understand me because I'm not human, remember? So, like, you care. You're a nice person. You should do it. And we find out that really it wasn't even Flynn's idea. Starshinya Nikita delegated it to him, which I'm assuming is like the leader. We learned too that Lauma and Nefer are going to be representatives in the league, as well as a random person from the Voynich Guild, who again is the one we know the least about, and I know. We then run into Durin, Albedo, and Varka. And Varka's like, oh man, it's been so hard. Like, I can't drink because I'm healing. And Albedo's like, you totally have drank. And Varka's like, how'd you know? And he's like, because you're from Mondstadt. Varka is like so excited to finally be heading home. And then as the league starts their like inauguration ceremony, and he's like, do any shorties need a boost? You can get on my shoulders to see. And it's like you literally got Traveler, Albedo, and Durin all at the same height looking at him. And the only one who really gives an answer is Durin. And Durin's like, I'm okay. I'll just listen from back here. And they start to have this conversation, and Varka basically offers to make Durin a knight. And Durin's like, can you even do that? He's like, I'm the Grand Master. I'll just give you some random title. And Durin's looking at Albedo like he's gonna like waive my gliding exam and he's gonna make me a knight. Albedo's like, I will burst his bubble later. So then we meet Tarno. And by meet, I mean we just listened to him. He is a Voynich Guild employee, and we find out that he is their representative. And he is just an NPC model. So really sad that we didn't get to see like some cool Voynich Guild employee come out, but whatever. I guess Herda is also, a random over in Mondstadt, and she's a captain, so whatever. We learn through some like side conversations and stuff after the ceremony's over, because the ceremony is a very long speech. It almost puts a few people to sleep. We learn that the Frostmoon Scions are so happy that Columbina's back, but they're also like making sure that they're not relying and praying to her, that they're not like giving her a lot of work. And Nefer actually admits to Lauma that the Curatorium is only involved in the League for show. And unless the League proves itself as useful, they're not going to do anything with the League. We are talking to Nefer and Lauma when Nicole bursts through our eardrums and invites us to tea to talk. But of course, she doesn't physically show up, so we're just sitting by ourselves awkwardly listening to her and then talking back to her in a room full of people outside. Nicole suggests that sometime down the road, something is coming. And I'm like, great. That's great. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, and she says that like the recent problems made the world more noticeable to outside entities, which made me wonder if we're going to have a new Descender soon.
Or or if the Voyager is gonna come back. Like, I don't know. Did the Voyager leave? Who fucking knows, right? But Nicole does ensure us that we'll be able to communicate with her moving forward and maintain a friendship with her. I mean, she tells us Tevat's borders are under control according to Alice, but that they don't want to let their guard down yet. Of course, Nicole tells us that Alice doesn't really just seem to care regardless, because she's in the middle of planning her next vacation to Mondstadt. But Nicole says that she's talked with Hat Guy and that he agrees that there needs to be some guard kept up.
I love it that going to see her daughter is vacation.
Yeah.
It's fun. She's gonna go like fish blasting, create havoc, ruin Jean's day. Cole also tells us that after the War of Funerary Flame, the energy in Nodcry changed, but since it was still aligned with the Light Realm, she hadn't thought much of it at the time. But now things have changed for her.
And then she almost tells us about the substance from which angels were formed.
I know. And then she was like, but you don't want my monologue.
I know. I was like, no, tell us.
Just because Alice is tired of hearing it doesn't mean we all are.
Yeah. I was like, I actually have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
She also tells us something we didn't know about the battle, which is that the Hexen Circle had actually provided protection talismans to all of our friends, and that was what kept them safe in our battle against Ettore. And she's like, hee, sometimes you don't know everything going on, hee. By the way, your friends are at the docks. You should go say bye to them. I'm like, okay, now she's telling me what to do. So we go to the docks, and where we find Arlecchino and Hat Guy. Arlecchino's getting ready to leave for Fontaine, and Hat Guy is going to Sumeru. Hat Guy susses the shit out of Arlecchino for how much he knows again. And she's like, are you sure we don't know each other? And he's like, nah, I just understand people. And she's all right, whatever. I hope that's it. And this is when she kind of clears stuff up and tells us that Sandrone had hid the real formula in Polonia to fool Dottore. So that's why the formula was able to complete in the battle and we were able to bring Columbina back. And Scaramouche does make a comment that Sandrone always has a backup plan.
And I sure hope that backup plan is that she's coming back.
I bet she will.
And it's very leaning that way because Arlecchino says that she is currently working to complete Sandrone's last wish to her, which was that if something were to ever happen to her, that her and Polonia's cores were to be delivered to the Fontaine Research Institute, which is interesting because the backup plan, but also thinking back to Elaine asking her if she had any final wishes is interesting. Arlecchino tells us that she is also bringing all of Sandrone's notes and books to the Research Institute, except for one that she thinks we should have. And she says, please do not tell Columbina any of this. And we're like, cool, no problem. We both do discuss that we think it might be some sort of backup plan for Sandrone, and we don't really want to get Columbina's hopes up. And Arlecchino confirms with us that she has been given back the iridescent moon marrow. She also tells us that the Tsaritsa has revoked the Pale Star Edict, and there is currently no more arrest warrant for Columbina, realizing that the arrest warrant was really just a ploy from Dottore, because he was involved in everything. We then move on to Hat Guy, who is going back to Sumeru to help Nahida fix all of Dottore's wrongdoings, which I wish them lots of luck, because there is too many to count.
Do you think one of those wrongdoings is hiding Tignari's lightning bolt?
Yes. I will see it soon. If I don't see it soon, I'm going to recreate it out of clay figures.
Yes!
Which are not going to be very artistically done. So it's just going to be like a little green goop blob. And we're like, this is Carter 1, Carter 2, and here is my dad's dog. Hat Guy does seem very worried about us, though, because he reminds us that today is the day Columbina is going to tell us the truth about our sibling. And he can tell that we're a little on edge about it, and he's very comforting. It was very sweet. We then go to meet with Columbina at the statue of herself. Where she tells us she's really trying to fit in at the science. And of course, it's not the easiest transition. And like the older people are very weird and awkward around her because they understand that she's a moon goddess and all this jazz. But that the kids are really easy to get along with and they're very curious. So she likes to hang out with them. She genuinely does seem very happy to be back on Teyvat. And we give her back the card from Moon Prayer Night that she lost.
It's hilarious because it fell into the water.
Yeah.
No, it fell into our arms. Clearly. She said that when she got all her trilunar power, she could sense not only her own story, but our prologue as well. AKA our spaceship that's apparently been hidden on the frost moon past the false sky. Because it's the only place to hide something that big.
Yep.
She's like, yeah, I think the Heavenly Principles put it there. And I'm like, what a hoe. But Columbina's not sure why. So we go to the moon.
Yes, to the moon on the cutest little boat thing that reminded me of the Lord of the Rings when all the elves go off to the Neverland area. And they're on those flourished little boats. This is what it was so cute.
And before the boat, we leave Paimon again. In which case, we've already had a convo with Paimon where she's like, if you don't want to tell me, it's fine, but no, I'm here for you. We leave Paimon. Columbina basically tells us that she doesn't believe in any type of ending, which I'm like, great. And she brings us on the path to the moon where she's actually seen the history and stories of her friends. So we start on a walking path where we see Lauma becoming a moon chanter at such a young age. And we see Nicole and learn that she's lived in Teyvat since the times of the moon goddesses. And that Sandrone was created by Elaine, and she suffered so much before joining the Fatui, and she just wishes that Sandrone was back so she could say nasty things to her again. And she says she saw our sibling, but because our sibling never really came to the surface, aka they were always in Conria, doesn't know much, but knows that when we first started our journey, our sibling would spy on us from afar, and seemed to have a guilty look on their face. And they show us the 2D rendering of the We Will Be Reunited trailer. She also says that, she wants to bring some of the Kuhenki to the moon. And once she cleans it up, she's going to bring some friends there too. So then we get on the moon chariot boat that Tiff was just mentioning, which was beautiful. And I felt like Kiana. And then we get to the moon and I was like, damn, it is a mess. Get your shit together, Columbina. There's not even a couch.
We have to go sit on a spaceship.
But there are some broken building parts. You know, it's not
Mhm.
like our spaceship is the only thing
Yeah.
there.
No, there's some other stuff.
And then there's our fucking spaceship. Also, I don't know if you guys jumped around a bit because, of course, I didn't go straight to the spaceship. But there was some very fun, like, anti-gravity mechanics where when you jumped, you kind of
Yeah.
floated for a bit. I thought that was super cool. So as we are approaching the spaceship, my first thought was, do we have the key to our hibernation chamber? And we go inside, and Columbina sings and sits on the spaceship, and then we return. And we see that Columbina's eyes are not covered. And she's like, yeah, you know, I decided not to do it because I want to see things with my own eyes more. And I thought it'd be so cool to see Tavat from the moon. And we're like, okay, that's cool. So we tell her that we read some of the flight logs, which I'm very impressed that we knew how to do that. And then when we read the flight logs, it seemed like we traveled over Tavat once many, many years ago, but we did not land there. In fact, we barely even had stopped above Tavat. The travelers suspect that us and our sibling continued to travel for thousands of years, but can't tell 100% because the data has been corrupted. It did seem to make a forced landing eventually in Nodcry, and the traveler still seems very unsure of things and what the storyline is here. Especially considering they remember seeing the sibling find us in the spaceship. So there's a lot of questions the traveler still has about how our sibling got out of the spaceship before us. Did we potentially leave our sibling? Like, did they like kind of like jump out and like float down to Tavat while we continued to travel in the spaceship? Did they just happen to wake up and leave before we did? There's a lot of uncertainty still to Traveler. And this is when we leave and come back with our sick new fit, Tiff.
She's like, now that your eyes are open, look at my new outfit. Which I was excited about. I love the fact that both travelers have new outfits. And the only reason is because I do also play as Lumine, and I've always been jealous of Aether's look. I've always thought the colors were better and stuff like that. And it makes Lumine's outfit closer to Aether's original. And that's why I love it.
What's so funny is I love Ether's new outfit. That looks more like Lumi.
Yeah. I guess it's whatever you're used to. You want to see something a little different.
Yeah.
I went around and tried on all of the, like, I resonated with all of the elements to see which color looked the best with it. It's Pyro. Pyro works the best.
Okay. Not Geo?
No, you need the little oomph, the little side. They're very close, but you need that little sparkle from the Pyro. It makes it stand out.
Okay. I think I'm Geo right now in it. But what I thought was interesting was the Traveler does comment that it matches their sibling's outfit. So if you're Lumine, Lumine is like, you know, this matches Ether's outfit. He always preferred this color than the one I wear. And I was like, that's so cute that like we remember nothing, but we remember that. Columbina and us sit down on the spaceship because there's no couch to talk. And Columbina's like, you know, do you like consider Tavat your home? And I feel like two of the big themes of Nodcry have been what is a home and what is a name. And this is when we're coming back to what is a home. And she's like, do you consider Tavat your home? And the Traveler takes a minute and she's like, yeah, I do. And Columbina's like, well, what if like you discovered that the truth of Tavat was different than what you currently think it is? Would you still feel like Tavat was your home, even if it was ugly?
What are you not telling us?
Mhm.
And the Traveler says, well, yeah, I think I would consider Tavat my home still because Tavat isn't home because of the truth of Tavat. It's not what matters the most to me. And while the Traveler doesn't say it, the Traveler is insinuating that what makes home is the people.
And Columbina's like, congratulations, that was the correct answer. And then gives us a power up.
Yes, literally. We also find out at this point that Lauma has been given the Eternal Moon Marrow back, and that Columbina is going to be giving her Kuvenki back to Nodcry, but says that she won't disappear now that she is the trilunar entity. And then she lifts our restrictions so we are able to use our powers more freely. And then gives us a flower because, duh, flower ripple.
Mhm.
So this is where you get to talk to your Archon at the end of the quest and see what they can do for us. So you have the option to ask her about 4 things. 1, to learn more about Shesnaya. And she's like, well, normal people get cold and they would tell you to bring warm clothes.
Thanks.
She says that there's a heat source called Kresnik's torch and that every city is built around it. So there's a torch in every city. And says it's a far and powerful thing, like almost like she doesn't completely understand it. She also says that there is a really fun group called the Koroleveski Troupe. They're like dance performers, and she says that she really likes them and the Harbingers get to go for free, so she would go a lot. Which I was like, damn, like, why are we letting the rich do things for free? But whatever, I'm not in charge. We then get to ask her about the Tsaritsa, and she says that the Tsaritsa is cold and sharp. And I'm like, great. So excited to meet her. She says that she doesn't think the people of Shesnaya know her true power because she doesn't think the Tsaritsa knows or has accepted her true power herself, which is pretty deep. And then you can ask her about the Fatui. And this is what I thought was interesting. Because at this point, we have Piero alive, Dottore assumed dead, Columbina has eloped, Sandrone assumed dead, Signora dead, Scaramouche Control-Alt-Deleted, Arlecchino a chaotic good, Child chaos, Pantalone, Rooster, Capitano dead, kind of frozen, I don't know, and an unknown Harbinger. So we don't have many Harbingers left. But she does tell us that the Regrator, Rooster, and Jester, which Regrator is Pantalone and Jester is Piero, control much of Shesnaya. And then on the outside, the Rooster and Regrator get along. But deep down inside, they have a very unfriendly rivalry. Drama! And she says that Project Stutza, which we've heard a little bit about, might be related to something called Misteltein. And then the last thing you can ask her is about her future. And she's like, yeah, I just want to explore Teyvat more after Nagkai gets settled. I want to see the world.
I love that.
I could show you the world.
While this did end, technically here, you do get to see two more things. One is Varka writing a letter to Jean, in which case he's like, yo, like, Hope Durin updated you on everything like he said he would. And he doesn't want to tell Jean that he's coming home because he wants to surprise everyone, because that's just who he is. So he lies and says that he's going to be sending the expedition home in waves. And he also is like, by the way, can we give our honorary tonight more honors? Like, what the fuck can we do? They're great. And he also talks about how he thinks that they should drop the acting from Jean's title, almost as if he's suggesting that he doesn't be the Grandmaster anymore.
Yeah.
Which I was like, wouldn't it be cool if they did like a Makoto A thing where like Jean was like the diplomatic one and like the people person, and then Varka was just like fighting things on the back end?
I mean, Jean deserves to be the Grandmaster at this point.
I agree.
After, holding down the fort, like doing the work of, 10 people probably.
And Varka's made it clear that he's more of like he wants to be the hero, but in a like combat way. He doesn't like to sit still. He doesn't like to do paperwork. I mean, no one likes to do paperwork, but he doesn't. Yeah. He also tells Jean that because they've used their last cash-in deal with the Hexen Circle, that they have to be extra nice to Klee. And he offers to take her solitary confinement time from her. He's like, I will sit in solitary in her place. And I just was like, bro, that's so desperate.
Yeah.
And then you get the final end scene that glitches out. What did you guys think of that?
I was like, yes. One, I assume it means Dottore is not dead.
Yes, that was my fear as well.
Yeah, because we don't really see him die, right?
We don't. And what have we learned? No body, no truth. Unless you could see a body.
Unless you're goop.
Unless you're goop. Yeah, I assumed it meant that Dottore just is somewhere else. The glitch did remind me a lot of Arlecchino's glitch, but I think Arlecchino's glitch is actually has more to do with the moons, because we kind of see the similar thing when Movica like punches a hole in the sky too. It looks a little similar to maybe not exactly like the glitch, but it's that same kind of, I don't know, it just has the same kind of feeling.
I also had a question for you guys about Dottore's powers. When Dottore opened up the fake sky, His powers reminded me a lot of the unknown god's powers that we assume is Asmodee, the shade
Mhm.
of space.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that that was his powers being shown, or do you think that that is just showing the side of the primordial one that Asmodee is made out of? Like, the primordial one made the false sky and then gave this space power to Asmodee, so they just happen to look similar.
Yeah, that's how I took it. Like I took it as the shades, they basically have the same powers as the moon goddesses. So I just took it as like using the moon goddess aspect of manipulating space.
So you do think it was Dottore? Because I was thinking that it was just like the primordial one's false sky being pulled apart looked like that. Like I was curious if it was actually Dottore or if it was just like
Yeah, I think it was Dottore using like his power over space because he had the authority of the three moons.
okay,
So he was able to manipulate space and like open up the sky.
okay. And then what did you guys think of this like comparison they were getting at between Columbina and Traveler's Paths? Because there's definitely like this suggestion that they are both like outlanders who are have been treated differently, but are trying to make Tavat their home.
Yeah, I think I liked it because it kind of shows that it doesn't have to be exactly the same to be similar, and that could be a big bonding in their friendship is the understanding of what that feels like. I think that we all kind of gravitate toward people who can understand our own, you know, life's path, and I think it's a comforting thing, especially in a world that's not their own.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense to, narratively to do that comparison because they're both people that were trying to flee their world to like go back home basically, and then kind of realize along the way that they already are home.
Hmm.
I love that. Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it too. And I will say the one thing that bothers me is that I think that Hoyo has a hard time distinguishing between friendship and flirting. So it's like I feel like if they just tweaked like some of the lines, a lot of the flirting from earlier on what might have come across more like this comparison. But also I wonder if that's more so just Columbina also being awkward and like not socialized properly.
Hmm.
I mean, Traveler shoved a lollipop into her mouth.
Don't remind me. I try to block that out. But also, I wanted to talk about the Harbingers for a second. Where does this leave the Fatui right now? I'm just doing my math real quick. I'm striking through all my dead Harbingers or my eloped Harbingers. So we know that the Harbingers are listed in power order, right?
Well, is it power or when they joined?
Yes, so Child confirms that. He says in his About the Damslet voice line, the Fatui Harbingers are ranked by strength, and I have no idea why that girl is number 3.
Oh, okay.
I test my skills with every Harbinger who ranked above me if I had the chance, but when it comes to her, something just doesn't feel right.
I wonder if it'll change now that we know that she's the moon goddess.
Well, she's not a Harbinger. She doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, true.
So, out of all of these Harbingers, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them left. 6 out of 11 that are alive. And I really don't count Arlecchino in this because I feel like she is going to side with us 90% of the time. So, like, you only have Pantalone and Rooster who don't get along, Child who gets along with Rooster, and Arlecchino, it seems, Piero, and this unknown 10th Harbinger.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great setup to getting to Shnesnaya, where we're going to obviously learn more about them there and getting to see the Saritsa and their relationships with it, as we kind of pointed out a few times during this episode, of how far can they actually pull that string of, well, I'm still doing the Saritsa's bidding, but I'm doing my own thing too. Like, where does that leave them? They all seem to have a very high, well, except for fuckface over here, they all seem to have a very high standard of loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
So I think where, like, even with Arlecchino siding with us and like Child siding with us, if it came down to it, it would be interesting to see what would happen if they had to go against us for the Saritsa.
Yeah.
The other guys are gonna fucking slash their throats, but those two, and if Sandrone comes back, I think would have a hard time with that. It'd be an interesting story. It would really be cool to see if they do make that total switcheroony.
Also would be curious to see if they filled the 6th seat
Yeah.
that Scaramouche is left behind.
Yeah. Is there somebody over there we just don't know yet?
I'd also like to add in there too that Capitano, is the first harbinger, so he was considered the strongest. He's gone. Dodoray is considered gone. Columbina, gone. Arlecchino is our friend. So we fought all the top 4 most powerful harbingers, or dealt with them, which is kind of relieving that, Pulcinella and Pantalone and Unknown will hopefully not be as scary.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Do you guys have any hopes for Snezhnaya as we move forward? Or the harbingers? Is there someone you'd like to see as a harbinger?
Well, I'm curious to know who the unknown harbinger is, I guess, but I think it's good that they've eliminated so many of them because it makes them more manageable in size once we get to Snezhnaya, and it's not going to be overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So I think story-wise, it's good that they've, narrowed it down. But as far as what I'm looking forward to the most is I want to meet the Saritsa and find out what her story is.
Oh yeah, because we have that. We know from Venti that it's maybe she lost love or something like that. Well, on that note, I do think that's all the time we have for today. It's been really fun to finally wrap up Nodcry, guys.
Yeah.
Or have we?
Yeah. I enjoyed the story a lot, and I know we've mentioned it in our other Nodcry episodes, but the storytelling in this one and seeing a lot of the cutscenes and stuff like that, and just the interesting dialogue that kind of moves along where you're not just having to read pages of stuff. I've really liked how they've done it.
Yeah, very well done.
I like how angry I've been the whole time. I had to deal with that asshat again. But travelers, if you liked what you saw today or you didn't, please feel free to email Albedo at talesoftevatpod@gmail.com, where he will relay the information to us and give me ice cream if it makes me sad. I'm going to try to recruit Ilua. Don't tell Albedo.
Ooh.
And maybe Lohan, but I feel like if I recruit Lohan, he'll just eat it.
There's a chance.
I'll be like, my dog ate my homework, Lohan ate my mail. I'm so sorry. Vark, get him on a leash. But yeah, travelers can feel free to email us and hopefully we'll get it and no one will eat our mail. You can also feel free to follow us on Instagram, Tales of Teyvat Pod, or on Twitter, Tales of Teyvat. We are also on Blue Sky, Threads, and YouTube under the same handles. Travelers can also feel free to give us a rating wherever you listen to your podcast so that other travelers know that they can find some halfway damn decent people, but much better than Dodoray. Over here at Angel Share. And finally, travelers can feel free to check out our Ko-fi, where you can buy us a cup of coffee, or you can check out our merch store. All proceeds go to funding this podcast, which we're super appreciative about. Goes to our all-night study sessions. It goes to our web hosting and everything that comes in between. Next time, we are going to be talking all about Saurian Dr. Aoife, who might have helped us a little bit when we were getting some refugees over to Natlan. So we'll talk him up.
What up, bro?
What up, bro? Until then, safe journeys, travelers. We will see you next time.
Bye, motorboat nerd. I was hoping someone would do the noise.